Blaze of justice! We stand as one!
Are you gonna give me orders?
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you enjoyed that silly free-for-all. We're going to be getting to the grand finals, but first, a big thank you to the sponsor of this amazing tournament. It's the final day, so if you're going to thank them a lot. Tweet at them, write in chat, thank them just every day for the next few weeks, and ask for more StarCraft. Shopify, Secret Lab, Ting, and Twitch. And also, if you missed the news yesterday, the TeamLiquid store does have the sick not StarCraft themed shirts that I'm wearing right now. I get the mech horse because I play with mechanical units occasionally. And that is a pretty sick, sweet deal. I got the poster actually last time they were released, back for the first TSL or whatever. So I was like, I never got the shirt. I'm really jealous. So when I heard they were sending us something special, I was like, is it going to be the thing? Is it going to be the thing? So it's really sick to see a lot of people already really excited about that. I think Apollo also tweeted a picture. He was already in a shirt too. Oh. So that's really cool. So definitely check that out. But guys, we do have the game ready. So let's go ahead and get started for this best of 7 grand final, a rematch between soO and INnoVation.
Let's get it on. Grand finals time. Can't believe it. Feels like just yesterday that the tournament was announced and we were following the qualifiers, and here we are. It is time for a best of 7 between these two amazing players. On the top right side of Everdream, look at the main base of the man who got it done through the upper bracket. It is soO.
In the bottom left, as the red Terran, he is INnoVation.
Yay! Now, I'm not sure if I really want to go here, but are you thinking what I'm thinking when it comes to soO and grand finals and second places?
Oh, you. Actually, I was reading, there was like a Reddit thread that was like, who deserves the next GSL, right? Or something along those lines. And it's like, I know who deserves another second place.
Oh my God.
I was like, no, that's so mean.
Yeah. If anything, he deserves to win one. Come on now. I mean, like you said, this is a rematch. Obviously, these two players have played against each other an insane amount of times throughout the history of StarCraft 2 because they have both been on top of the scene for a very long time. I remember a long time ago, we were casting the Intox 3 Masters in Cologne. And back then, this was also the grand finals of Gamescom. That's like 5 years ago, I think. That was one of the very first times that Pig was casting, actually. And that's why I will always remember that tournament as well. It's like, it's so nice to have Pig with us. Back then, it was a relatively one-sided affair. INnoVation was able to take that tournament down 4-1. Now, of course, in this tournament, soO did win 3-2 on that crazy Sunday. Or at least one of the crazy days that we had so far in TSL. But that was also one of these games where we think back of that game 5, we think of what we were looking at Zen, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of INnoVation's game. Like, what can possibly go wrong? And then soO just grabbed all of his units, ran to the other side of the map, forced the base trade that didn't seem very promising at first, but he somehow got it done. I was really shocked by that, because out of all the predictions that I got wrong in this tournament, that was one that I felt really good about. I was like, there's no way soO's going to beat Inno with the way that Inno has been playing over the last few weeks. But he did get it done. I still feel the same way, though. I was like, there is no way that soO is going to win, right? But obviously the man managed to get to the grand finals through the upper bracket, was able to take out so many good players on the way here. So he's clearly in very good form, and maybe he can just get it done one more time. It'd be quite the story, and it'd be beautiful to see soO win it all.
Of course it is. He won IM Katowice 2 years ago at this point. So not the previous one, but the one before that. And I mean, it was just a fantastic story. It really was. And I don't think I'll forget that he showcased just how he can still win tournaments, basically. Every time you think about soO and you're like, is he really in form? He's at the grand finals. And you're like, I guess he is. And regardless of his victory or not in those grand finals, like, he always gets there year after year after year. Possibly the two most consistent StarCraft 2 players that we've really had. Both, once they've retired, I think both are going to be up for like serious debate of the B word, the bonjour status, as history looks back on them. But they're still playing. They and soO, is, as you were just talking about, like, obviously has shown that even every time we're like, is he in good form? He still has the ability to win. He can still mix things up and change up the direction of the story, of the game, right? And actually make it into his own. So that base trade, it's not really supposed to be what worked, but it threw INnoVation off and it worked, and it got him the series. So I have a pretty good faith in soO, but INnoVation, man. Like, he might have faltered once, but he has not faltered again since in this tournament, and I think he will finally take it in this series. But to talk a little bit about the builds, we do have that fast Spire on the way for soO. INnoVation just going for some typical faster sim bio.
Yeah, it's a 2-base opening on Everdream. I would say out of all the maps that we see the 2-base opening on, I feel like we don't see it that often on this one. So obviously, like, Mutas always have potential, and there is always, some plays that you can make with them. But with the build that INnoVation went for, INnoVation is obviously going to have a superior economy with that relatively quick third command center, or orbital command rather. I do get a little worried, because this is not a very big map, right? So if INnoVation doesn't take damage from the Mutas initially, he is going to be able to work with a lot of Marines, and then soO is going to need some magical engagements and somehow get the Veining connections that he's looking for, because this is not the kind of build where Zerg can take 1 or 2 bad fights, right? It's like, no, they better be good, otherwise you just have no answer against all the Marines that are knocking on your front door to just straight up end the game.
Mm-hmm. We've seen a few games in TSL from multiple different Terrans, but INnoVation included, where the Zerg player is going for what is now a typical build, whether it's 2-base or 3-base, but faster Spire, and then they just get bopped around that 4th base. The creep spread isn't good enough, the control isn't good enough, or they just simply didn't actually do any damage with their opener. So it is certainly one of the scarier parts for Zerg players, no matter what map you're on, but definitely on a shorter map with a very fast rally. So we'll see how it goes. INnoVation should have enough intel. As Viking even kind of gets into the main base. I would say just on the base on the late third and how soO has been playing, that, or Zergs in general have been playing, that he kind of knows what to expect. But
soO's going up to 64 drones of this opening. I mean, it seems like he's going to get away with it for now, because INnoVation has not been super crazy, didn't want to lose his Hellions, didn't dive in. But that is a pretty insane drone number for the opening that he went for.
I was getting a little worried that Significant Hooks didn't seem to be a priority, but he does start it up, as well as +1 flyer attack. So we'll start off on a pretty low number of mutas. It's just going to be the case until your economy really is getting going, which it is now. And eventually out of those upgrades, so it's something the Terran player will expect to have an upgrade lead for quite some time. Viking taken out is nice, but obviously INnoVation didn't really need the Viking to alert him. He already has a missile turret, he already has these number of Marines, he is ready to defend this, and also getting ready to do a push. I don't think he's going to try and drop against this, right? It's a bit too dangerous to do that, but yeah, get ready for your push.
And it makes sense as well to go for the push, because his army is better in a straight-up fight. So why would you take the risk right now of sending out multiple medevacs where you can actually just take the fight head-on? Now, of course, on creep, even just a couple of Banelings are very intimidating and can be scary, and all that soO really needs to buy more time for himself to really get his tick economy going is survive this first wave and then get 1 or 2 Baneling connections. We have the Hellions actually on the top side of the map. They could potentially go for an adventure in the natural, or at least pull a couple of units out of position, while soO makes a little mistake with his Mutas, but only a single Muta went down. I mean, it's obviously been a quiet game so far, and soO does have a decent creep setup in the middle of the map. But I'm just worried, man, because I just feel that INnoVation's army is better than soO's army. So the first fight needs to be good for soO. If this fight is not good, that could very well be it.
Oh, this is not going to be it. Not off creep. INnoVation was paying attention. I really liked INnoVation's movement right there. I think he was checking for any potential run-by being set up with the Hellions, but then ultimately he does want to use them in his main engagement, which I think is just, it does really add enough to sometimes even win the game if your Hellbats can soak any amount of Banelings. And the armory is now done, so they'll be transforming. The tanks are sieged up in a very brutal position, not easily found by these Lings or Banelings, and it's not like the mutas are really in high enough numbers to target them easily either.
There are more units on the map as well on the way for INnoVation. So soO's gonna go for it. Banelings will start crashing in, and it's pretty decent. But now the additional Marines show up, and is it good enough to fight that as well? It seems like the answer is no for now. At least soO did manage to take care of the siege tanks. So that is a start, but that fight was 1-1 upgrades against 0-0. soO is going to have his 2 upgrades kick in as well, and the Marine count did get reduced quite a bit. So it may be good enough. The fact that he kept the hatchery alive is awesome, but it is low on HP, and INnoVation is definitely not done yet.
There was an opportunity for that second tank to get a second shot. It didn't quite happen. And speaking of tanks, they unsiege at the exact wrong time. soO actually goes off of creep, something that INnoVation was not anticipating, to take out the tank numbers and have his mutas left over. Actually, many of them weak, but still alive. He's going to push this back entirely.
What an amazing fight there by soO. Indeed, the tanks on siege obviously didn't help INnoVation. The stim fell a little bit late as well. He was clearly not looking and did not expect soO to go for it. That was a beautiful, perfect call by soO. Now he actually buys a lot more time for himself. And the fact that that fort base is so low in HP is suddenly not that much of a concern anymore, at least for now. Because INnoVation is no longer there. He's no longer in soO's face. Very well done by soO.
Yeah. Quite an amazing start there, as he did everything correctly, saved every drone, every base. No Liberator got a couple extra drones, nothing like that. So he's gone up to 5 bases. He's going to be comfortably going up to like 80 even plus drones. And his upgrades, I mean, they actually, well, 3-3 is always going to be faster, let's admit that. But the 2-2 is actually not that far behind, as INnoVation's army wasn't perfectly timed. But yeah, this is actually setting up to be a nice mid game. Now, Everdream still being kind of like, you can feel small even as you get past that very scary no creep 4th base in danger mode, but it's now INnoVation who has to be a little scared, right? Like he has to always be wary of where soO can be attacking into him if soO just wants to max out and move in. So it's not something that he has to worry about dying, because he does seem pretty well set up for this. His upgrades are finishing, but will he move out again soon? That seems to be kind of a question mark for Terrans now. Like, do they just turtle and wait for the Zerg to come to them, or did they actually try and do their 2-2 pushes and hit with their 3-3?
The problem with moving out as well is that the Muta count is no longer 6 or 7 Mutas, right? Where a single turret is always going to keep you safe. The Muta count is at 17 at this point. And that means that if you move out, you better be sure that you can deal with 17 Mutas if they do dive on top of one of your turrets. And you need to leave a couple of Marines behind. But obviously you don't want to leave too many units behind either, because then it feels like you can't win the fights in the center of the map. So I'm really happy to see the setup that we've got. And I think that INnoVation at this point is like, didn't go as well as I was hoping for. And let's just take the game from here. Let's slow down. Let's get it together, and let's get that 4-base economy up and rolling.
Thought those 2 Marines were definitely medevacs, but apparently not. That was weird. I wonder if soO also made the same mistake. But yeah, they just maybe were scouting for like quick bases. I'm not actually sure. Scan does go down in the main, which makes more sense to see what the hive timing is. Depending on it seeing a hive or not, even started a little bit forward there. He might have figured out that soO was just going to try and like bowl him over. But seeing a hive, he wants to try and force some engagement, some trades, actually find opportunity. This is not all of his army, as he does take a couple banelings to the face. He can retreat exactly with the medevac boost, and his army still waiting in that natural.
That was insane. So far, only a single SCV has gone down, and not a single drone actually went down. That is about to change, as these SCVs are a bit clumped up. Banelings trying to get on top of them. That does not work, but it still seems like a pretty decent fight for soO. It is, of course, important to not get carried away. Does he get the Thor? He does not. INnoVation saves it. Excellent.
That was very scary. Also, the Mutas almost got shot again, which also would have bopped 2 or 3 more of them. That was a scary engagement. I think it was scarier because the planetary could have gone down, which the Mutas are going to try and target now, but not enough numbers, and the SCVs are here to repair anyways. So maybe going to grab SCVs, not even that. Yeah, those attacks are scary because, you know, as INnoVation, if he does lose the 4th base, even by just like residual baneling hits, right? The banelings are crashing in everywhere. They have splash. They'll hit it even if it's not your target. It forces you kind of into an all-in position. It really sucks.
It's not even just about
also hit your army.
Yeah, not even just about the planetary. Even if he just ends up losing 20 SCVs there, right? But INnoVation saved almost every single SCV. soO is not done yet, though. He's just going to go for it one more time. And the upgrades of Inno are not done yet. The Widow Mines don't fire here. So these Lings and Banelings are having an absolute field day. And I'm starting to get pretty concerned here for INnoVation. Even though we are still fighting near the planetary, this time the Widow Mines do fire, but the planetary will finally fall. And soO gets a big, big victory there. Well done. soO is playing some amazing StarCraft here in Game 1.
His macro is definitely... I think INnoVation is actually just not expecting soO's macro, at the very least, how much army is there prepared for the attack. But yeah, it's kind of on INnoVation. Like, every time the first time he moved out, I was like, okay, he's kind of looking for a bait. You know, he's going to run back to his base. And that even didn't go spectacularly. And the second time he moves out, he doesn't even have that many Widow Mines. And of course, they're not burrowed either. So these move outs, I mean, hindsight 2020, that one was questionable, but he's going to try and just continue the game by moving over his 3rd and his natural. These are both going to be orbitals, so Ling run bys to the 4th, 5th, whatever you want to call it, as well as to the 3rd, are going to be really difficult to deal with.
Yep, I think the biggest story of this game so far is, oh no, the Mutas are clumping up, the Widow Mines fires soO. You were playing so well up to this point. That is painful. Now, obviously, he does have some money in the bank, and INnoVation all of a sudden is like, cool, that went really well. Now, let's start getting on creep. He still has to be careful because there are still a lot of links and a lot of Banes. But I feel like the story of this game so far has been soO bringing fights to INnoVation when INnoVation really did not expect it, right? Not once, but 2 or 3 times so far in this game. And everything was going so well for soO until he lost all those Mutas. Now he does have some time, but the next fight is probably going to be a little bit harder. With all these Widow Mines set up already, we have so many mines. They don't get the sickest shots yet. Then again, well, does soO? This is close. It's a really close fight.
Yeah, the Widow Mines never got 6 shots, but the army of INnoVation just lasted a very long time. Like, the upgrades were done for them, plus 3 Carapace isn't actually quite done. Adrenagland's only just finished for the last bit of that fight. So I think what we saw was a lot of, like, Widow Mines not getting amazing shots, but a lot of Marauders actually just tackling, like, 20 units, because they just weren't dying. So that was a fight that lasted longer than I anticipated. I actually thought that with the Widow Mines not getting shots, yeah, I thought that was going to be INnoVation just cleaned up, but soO is forced to retreat, rebuild the Banelings, which will be more explosive, right? They're just going to clean up everything instantly. And he's also going to start adding in Ultras, which will have their full upgrades as they pop. Now, you know, you can't just rely on Ultras, but he's not. He's only getting 2 of them. So I think it's a really nice number, actually.
Yep, I think having a couple Ultras here is super good because obviously we're not looking at Gulls, we're not looking at Liberators with advanced ballistics. So if you want to get rid of these Ultras, you're just going to have to gun them down. And Marauders do an alright job against them, but it's not like Ultras just disappear. I love how soO is still thinking about counterattacking as well, or at least trying to deal some more economic damage. Because INnoVation mostly has orbital commands, right? So if soO is able to squeeze in Zerglings or Banelings into those mineral lines, it's going to get very difficult. If I was soO, I may actually give up on this base and just go for the counterattack, but instead he's going to try to fight his army head first. There are a lot of mines though, soO, you better be careful.
That's not a very easy position to break at all. High ground through a choke with Widow Mines, but a huge Ling run by was set up, and these are Adrenal Gland Lings, so that is going to go down really, really quickly. INnoVation's reinforcements probably not going to be enough to clean that up, so we might be in a little bit of a base trade as more Lings get into INnoVation's 5th base. His army's also getting overstimmed here, and the Ultras are looking for the kill.
Yep, Banelings blowing up SCVs as well on the bottom. That was awesome by soO. He's just making all the correct calls at this point. The medevac count is low. INnoVation is not going to be able to keep kiting forever. And that is going to be it. soO taking the 1-0 lead over INnoVation here in the grand finals. And you know what, Jess? He looked damn good doing it. Other than that little Muda mistake, I think soO just played one hell of a game.
That was an impressive showing of Zerg macro. I mean, him handling the first push was probably the first impressive showing, right? Not taking damage, not losing the 4th base. But then, yeah, him being just always ready to go, ready to rumble with INnoVation's army, I think surprised INnoVation more than once. And all it took was one time to actually be truly deadly to him, too. I have to applaud INnoVation for actually lifting orbitals and trying, because you will see a lot of other Terrans just be like, okay, I can't rebuild a 4th, like I'm just going to go for it then and there. But, you know, him actually lifting both orbitals and then attacking along the path of expansion, yeah, you're kind of like, oh man, like maybe this is actually possible. But soO proved that, you know, this is why it's so difficult. Then your 3rd's being attacked, you know, the defense is there, or you protect your 3rd and then your 4th and 5th bases don't have defense because they're not planetaries. Like, eventually INnoVation was always going to have to deal with being spread too thin. But in that game, he also just lost the main engagement eventually as well. But good game from both. More impressive for soO.
And a really good way, I think, to kick off our grand finals, right? This is the kind of stuff we want to see, where it's like, okay, I think Inno's got a good setup. Let's see what soO can do about it. And he just surprised all of us, including Inno, by getting some really good fights. And even later on to the game, I felt a couple of times I'm like, oh, I can see this go so wrong, because he was so heavy on the Lings and Banes, right? It was this Ling Bane. Obviously, he had quite a few Mutas. And then going into Ultras, and it felt with all the Widow Mines, and like, I feel like we're 2 Widow Mine shots away from soO losing half his army. So I'm kind of like holding my breath, and he gets away with it. He's able to pick off the mines before they fire, and even if they did fire, yeah, they got like 6 to 8 Lings, but they never got that massive shot of like 30 Zerglings going down, and that solely allowed the Lings and Banes to get some really good fights against the Marauders, and INnoVation was just forced to run away over and over again. Second map is going to be Nightshade though, and I feel like we have said everything we need to say about Nightshade in Terran vs Zerg. The Terrans love it, the Zergs a little less. Let's see what soO's idea is going to be about this map.
That is a very good question, not just because of like, you know, the obviously like tank push we always talk about, but soO is definitely one of those guys I could see going for the 1-1 Roach push, which is also kind of invaded Nightshade. Instead of finding ways to deal with that tank push around the mountains or whatever they are around your
the
fourth.
center. We just always call it
Yeah,
the center.
the center.
Everything happens
There you
in
go.
the center on Nightshade.
Yeah, exactly. You just say, like, you know what? I'm going to bring it to you. Before you even can really do that push, I'll have an overwhelming number of roaches, and it's up to you to defend. I could see soO being that type of guy, especially because he already has the momentum up 1 here in a best of 7.
Yep. No, I kind of like that as well, because I feel like we have seen the very best Zerg players in the world fall against just great Terran play on this map. It really does feel like the ball's always in the corner of the Terran players, and if they don't mess up, if they don't take too much damage over Zergling 1-by, or somehow let Banelings blow up all the Marines while they are trying to take that center, it seems like it's an almost unlosable map. Now, obviously, it's a lot harder than it's, that's a lot easier said than done. But it does seem like a lot of games are heading into that direction, so let's just see what this man has in store for us in Game 2. He looked so good in Game 1, spawning as the Zerg. It is soO.
In the top left, as the red Terran, he is INnoVation, having fought his way from the lower bracket by being beat out by soO back in the very beginning of TSL. I mean, that was the first weekend, right? You and Day9 were casting it.
And I gotta say that Inno looked really good in his entire run in the lower bracket. Perhaps other than the series against Raynor, but the fact that he was able to turn that one around. Obviously, it started off with the proxy racks and then the fake proxy in Game 4 and then a miraculous victory in Game 5. Like, he looked amazing and perhaps questionable in the same series, because the first 2 games made every INnoVation fan go like, yeah, this isn't gonna end well, is it? But in the other series that he played, he looked so damn good. Today, even against Trap, right? It felt even in the games he lost, he was really getting somewhere. He was getting himself in a good setup. And it was with pretty unique builds. So it's been one hell of a run for Inno. And I think that's why it's fair to say a lot of people would see him as the favorite here in the Grand Finals. But after that first game, I don't know if I'm really on board the soO hype train yet, but he looked damn good.
Oh, it's a sign of things that could come. But I don't ever count on INnoVation exactly because of that series versus Raynor. He's been able to change it up. Both players really just proving how they can adapt to their opponents to ensure their placement here in the grand finals at the very least. INnoVation to the lower bracket, but soO even just making sure to tackle every guy who came towards him in the upper bracket. He made Trap, who maybe Trap's PVZ is kind of his worst, but a worst for a pro gamer is never that bad, and he still made Trap look kind of bad. So soO just playing very well.
So far, everything is standard on the side of soO. He's not showing us that he wants to do something weird. But obviously, we're going to keep a close eye on his main base. We'll see if he ever decides to mine gas before he's supposed to. But this is kind of looking very standard. It's, of course, a bit different than Everdream. As on Everdream, he went for that 2 hatchery opening with that very quick lair. This game, the lair is going to be a little later because he's going up to 3 bases.
Could still go for a pretty well-timed Spire off the 3 bases. But exactly, we're going to be paying attention to the gas count and what he has to provide there. Because we're also still thinking about the potential for roaches, which I'm sure INnoVation is keen to scout.
Yeah. But he's not mining any crazy gas, right? Like, he still has only a single drone on his extractor in the main base, so... might be thinking about it, might be a tiny bit concerned, because he's like, I don't trust you, and you should never trust a Zerg in the grand finals of a tournament. But so far, it's normal. It seems like we are perhaps getting more of what we saw before. I also wonder if INnoVation is going to be a little more adventurous when it comes to killing drones. Obviously, you can say that it's hard to find openings against a 2-based opener from Zerg, right? Like, the drones are going to be pretty well protected in general. But it was quite shocking that 12 minutes into the game, INnoVation did not manage to kill a single drone. And obviously, the majority of his focus was with the pushes. He just wanted to bring it to soO in a straight-up fight, and I didn't hate that decision. But never, not killing a single drone 12 minutes into the game, that's always a bit like, I think it's safe to say that Terrans always hope to find something here and there.
Well, yeah, that's fair to say. But how often do they actually end up doing that? So the question, even that good cancel there, building cancel from the drone saves that life. soO just playing very, macro-oriented, just building drones and making sure it doesn't take any damage. Nothing tricky whatsoever. Not even the, bit faster layer there. To actually get the fastest mutas off 3 bases. This might still be on the priority of mutas, unless on the evolution chambers or banelings, but not that INnoVation isn't doing anything sneaky himself. We were talking about the roaches. I was talking about that 1-1 roach push, right? But we also do have to consider that both these guys are players that could do mech versus bio. They could do 2 racks versus macro. They could do roaches, Ling, Bane, all in versus the double upgrades. Like, they actually have all possibilities for builds. But this game, well, we are going to have macro.
That INnoVation is looking for economic damage this game because he opened up with the Liberator rather than the Viking. Liberator is going to show up in the main base, and obviously if it would pull the Queens out of position, that maybe gives these Hellions an opportunity to actually go for a couple of drones, and that is exactly what is going to happen. Already getting 4, and Balval keeping the majority of his units alive, and look at this Liberator doing a lot of economic damage as well in the main base, not by necessarily killing a silly amount of drones, but all of these drones were not mining, and Stu is sending them back, I want to say too soon. But hey, INnoVation is going to unsiege.
Well, when it does go up to that many Hellions, like a dive can be really scary and pretty worth it, especially if you have INnoVation's macro behind it, so you don't have to worry about counters. But the Liberator is really doing more damage than they thought they would. Now with the second one coming in here, both sieging up. That one is denied.
This is a really good play. That Liberator in the Naturals grabbing a couple of kills. The main base was annoying before, and the Hellions were still looking as well for a few more. And even though this is not insane, we don't see 20 drones going down, I think Inno can already feel a lot better about this opening because he's getting done what he's looking for. He's keeping Stu busy, he's delaying his gold order, he's grabbing a couple of drones here and there. The Hellions, perhaps, this is their moment, as the link count is not that high, but the Queens are going to make it hard for them to really go through.
Yeah. So far, good on the Hellions. But yeah, this Liberator is just, I think it's doing, at this point, maybe too much damage. Yeah, it's the second Liberator, so I have to consider that. But it's still alive. So it's got more potential, and that's a decent number racked up in total. Yeah, 12 in total. That's definitely good. I think it's really thrown off Stu's build here, which was going to try and go for that Spire, again, over like faster upgrades or anything like that. I mean, the good news is Typical Hook started when it was supposed to, so he'll have that in time. The bad news is his mutas, I don't know how much they're really going to be able to do before, do anything, actually, before INnoVation pushes out. He's, like, ready to go now.
Yep, and obviously INnoVation is already working on 2 upgrades, like +1 attack and +1 armor, more than halfway done, while Stu is only now planting down his evolution chambers. So there is a good chance that we'll get a proper 1-1 against 0-0 fight. Seems like Stu even misplaced his hatchery there. He seems to be a little shaken up over here on Nightshade.
Yeah, a little. Really think he wasn't expecting to take the damage that he did. It does kind of set you off, and not just like literally like in the game, but also mentally. He's going to try and find out where the attack is incoming. It is to the left side, as INnoVation figured where his 4th base was going to go, not around that usual middle that we talk about.
If I'm Stu, I would already take my base in the middle now, because this base is going to fall. You know it. Stu knows it, and INnoVation knows it as well. I think Stu at this point is just trying to buy some time for himself to get these mutas out and maybe get a higher baneling count. But this hatchery will never go up. It is important to cancel it, and Stu does cancel it. And look at how easy it has been for INnoVation to keep Stu on 3 bases in this game compared to the previous game.
That's really disappointing for Stu. That's also a reason why you don't see that base taken that much either. Both 4th bases on this map for Zergs can be tricky if the Terrans realize that's what you're going for. So sometimes you see them try to double expand right, but Stu didn't really have enough minerals. Now he does, but he is now focusing on the 4th base to the north. His mutas have finally popped, and the good news is they all popped at a good number. 9 is a decent number indeed, but this seems like a bit bold there. Almost lost a muta.
Yeah, the reinforcements of INnoVation seem to be good enough to be taking care of that. Inno is making the Panic Reaper, so, we're going to have another random Reaper show up in the middle of the map. Stu might actually decide to go for it as the tanks are not siege, but then the Banelings have to go off creep. There is another tank in the backline, though. The mutas show up as well. Stu is actually getting a somewhat decent fight. The problem is he just doesn't have enough.
I think that was the definition of the problem there. If he had 10 more units, that actually might have been enough, but INnoVation also didn't back away as much as he could have with those Marines, so some of them died unnecessarily, but he still has a lot left over. The tank in the high ground especially was kind of a big surprise to Stu, I'm guessing.
Stu has a few too many resources in the bank as well, right? He's been floating 800, 900 for quite some time now, and it's pretty clear that this is a larva issue because he's trying to make as many circlings as he can. This 4th base is up, but it's already so low on HP. The Lings are going to go for the Marines. The mutas are going to jump on top of the tank, and even if Stu cleans this up, though, the reinforcements are already on the way. INnoVation is going to fly back to his reinforcements, and I think at this point, Stu just doesn't have enough. He's got no Banelings left. The Marine count is still so damn high, and Stu is still he's actually forced to tap out with 1,000 minerals in the bank. just couldn't secure his bases. And like you said, maybe the Liberators just messed him up way too much in this game.
That's what it felt like. I mean, the Hellions are doing their part as well, at least distracting, so we can't, again, underestimate how much it, like taxing that is mentally to deal with that. But attention is a resource, right? That's what I was trying to say. But yeah, I just felt like the Liberators really threw him off. And then on top of that, the macro there at the last, like it came, absolutely, it was because he could get the fourth base up. And that's one of the reasons you need a fourth base, is not just for the drones and setting up your macro game, but also for the larva. But we usually also see either, as I said, a double expand, expecting to lose one basically, or you see a macro hatchery. Like fourth base plus macro hatchery is actually kind of common to see in conjunction with each other. And we never saw it. We never saw it put down, even after he started realizing like, oh, I'm banking minerals here. So would that have saved his life? Probably not, because his gas was still low. He couldn't get enough banelings, but it would have looked better, would have felt better at least to tap out without the minerals in the bank.
We all know how hard it is to secure that fourth base and to take good fights against Terran players as a Zerg on Nightshade, but that is indeed why you see so many of the other Zerg players take that double expand, go up to 4 and 5 bases at the same time. And that is obviously not to just rush up to 92 drones and then be crazy. Like, no, that's because there's a very good chance that one of these setups is quote-unquote unbreakable, but then that's okay. Then you cancel that hatchery and you still have that other fourth base to fall back on. Then the tanks are going to be forced to unsiege, they're forced to move, and maybe then you can get a better fight as a Zerg. I mean, this time it was just a little too easy for Inno. I do want to say, though, I love this kind of Inno a bit more than the previous game. Like, I understand against the 2-base Muda opening that he just kind of relied on his main army and didn't try to get like a lot of economic damage done, because it's just very different and it's harder. But I like seeing Inno out for blood, trying to kind of disrupt the build order of his opponent, pick off a couple of drones here and there. And even if he didn't get like 20 this game, this was still really good damage, because not just the drones he took out, it's all the times that soO was forced to pull the drones away from mining as well. And that really does start adding up very quickly.
Yep, even a queen went down. That should have been injecting, maybe starting a bit of that snowball effect. Like, yeah, it was doing more than it should, because really, if we're expecting it, the perfect play from a pro Zerg, it's actually, you're supposed to take like no damage or maybe like 3 or 4 drones, and certainly deny the Hellions doing anything. But that might have been an outlier for the rest of the series to have that throw soO off as much as it did. Maybe it does equal damage, but then his build's still like kind of on point. That I feel like it really threw him off. So he's gonna have to reset his mind here a little bit on Simulacrum as we spawn in the top left on top of our Zerg player. He is soO.
And in the bottom right side, look at the main base of one of the all-time greats of StarCraft 2. Nobody will ever deny that. It is INnoVation.
It's really hard to say that he isn't. Like, he's been through all different metas. I mean, soO too, but yeah, he's a good player. I do want to say one more thing about that last map, and that's that INnoVation. He actually went directly towards soO other fourth, which I thought was actually kind of... I like looked and saw, maybe he saw it building with something and he didn't. Like, he just knew to go to that fourth, which I feel like isn't actually usually the case, right? Like, usually Terran players anticipate the fourth to the north, even though we talk about how hard it is to defend. It's still the base that Zergs take, and then they have other ways of trying to deal with the push. So for INnoVation just to beeline towards the base that was actually being taken, I wonder how that surprised soO as well. How much that surprised soO, because that was I wondered why he went there, and it was like, well, that's where the base is, so it made a lot of sense.
Maybe soO has done it before. I mean, these two guys have played like 7 or 8 times against each other already officially in this year. And I can only assume that they play against each other on the ladder, or even in some custom games from time to time, right? Because they both play in a lot of tournaments, and it's not just within the Korean region. They're also going up against a lot of the foreigners. So if INnoVation knows that he has to play against Raynor, I wouldn't be surprised if he asks soO for a couple games.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe also like how the creep was being pushed out too. Any amount of creep that you get to help you defend that fourth base is pretty crucial. But just a cool game, but definitely one that's heavily favored INnoVation. It was definitely different than the first one. So definitely the back and forth best of 7 we were hoping for. Now we're on to Simulacrum, which doesn't really have those brutal spots that we usually talk about, right? Like, sometimes they use the choke that the SCV is going through right now, but it's really not that brutal because it's not in range of the hatchery pretty much ever, and going through the choke with your Marines is also dangerous.
Yeah, do you think that Inno's gonna play some mech in this best of 7? I mean, since he was so fond of it against Trap earlier today, of course a different matchup, but that gives me the feeling that we might see it at least once, because obviously he did some battle mech against Raynor as well earlier in this tournament.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I'd say that gives me hope that he will go mech versus soO more than going mech versus Protoss. Because I feel like when you go mech versus Protoss, you're just like, I know you are good against bio. I am not going to go bio. You're gonna be so surprised. But versus Zerg, it's like, even though it's not the most common thing anymore, it's still somewhat anticipated. But it's a question. It really does seem to be a question if Terrans actually think mech is good or not. But anyways, I think so. Best of 7. That's a lot of potential. Still got a couple big maps to go through. But
maybe purity in industry.
Oh wow! If we actually play in that map, that'd be like one of the first games, honest to God, I've seen. I've cast a few, but like compared to Eternal Empire, it's like 1 to 10 games, man.
Well, soO is going back to his opening from game 1, right? With a 3-minute, 10-second lair. He's going to delay his third hatchery for a split second. He's going to take additional gases. He's going to rush out that Spire. I think on this map, I don't mind it. I think it's better than it is on Nightshade or something, so I think it makes sense.
So we have INnoVation. He went for a Viking, then he went for Double Liberator, really upped the harassment. Now we're going for Banshees. We have seen most pro gamers wait till 2, right? They rarely do anything with 1, so they just wait for 2. And that can do some damage that I feel like every time we've been like, it usually doesn't do much damage. They've dealt a decent amount of damage. So that could be promising, but I would say that it's not as good as going directly to like only a Viking, right? And then immediately swapping off to build reactors for your barracks against what soO is doing. There might have been some fear of a cheese, but I think he's figured out what it is now.
Maybe soO was just a bit disappointed in his Viking. I mean, he made a Viking against Elaser and he got 5 Overlords. So he's like, this is really cool. And in game 1, he only got a single Overlord. And then the Viking went down to the Mutas on the bottom side of everything. And he's like, you know what? That's it. I didn't get any drone kills. I'll go back to the units that I have a little more faith in.
Yeah, maybe. Well, speaking of scouting, right? If INnoVation has kind of figured out what soO is doing, soO doesn't really have the same info. The wall off here can be indicative of like Banshees or Viking or Liberator. So 8 Hellions again. He might be anticipating Liberator. Either
Timing
way,
of the Spore Crawler in the main base is absolutely perfect. The Banshee shows up literally near the extractor, and that's when the Spore Crawler finishes up. So soO is definitely sharp. That wasn't late. So far, these Hellions are not finding any drones either, or don't really get any good fights against the Lynx and the Banes. So I'm loving the Queen movement here by soO. These are the kind of things that we take for granted from these guys, but we do see Queen sometimes be out of position, and then the Lynx are suddenly forced to take a fight. They don't really want to fight. So I think so far, so good for soO.
And now he's building more Spore Crawlers. I think there might have been some, like, it's a Liberator, but, okay, actually it's Banshees, because, he built 1 Spore Crawler in the main, but he's now finishing his 3rd Spore Crawler in the 3rd as the Banshees come in. So
this is actually kind of cool. INnoVation is just going to dive on the Queens with the Banshees, with the Hellions as well, and that means that these Queens are kind of gone. At least 2 of them go down very quickly. The other Queens are going to show up. Would love to see an Overseer here, so he can actually chase those Mutas a little bit. Excuse me, the Banshees with his Mutas. That'd be awesome. He has an Overlord here. I would have loved to see him morph it into an Overseer.
He had an Overseer, I thought, hotkeyed with his Queens. I don't know where it went to, because it just came. It was late. Yeah. It might have been in the main, thinking the Banshees were going to go in there, but yeah, that was weird. He still would have lost some Queens just because it was like all of a sudden everything. But yeah, he should have had the Overseer a bit faster. Mutas have popped now and will control the next 30 seconds or so until INnoVation feels comfortable pushing.
That doesn't feel like a very long time. No control.
Yeah, well, it's... well, then you have to deal with a Terran push, right? And then it goes to them for a minute, and then it goes back to you if the Mutas survive. TTZ, man.
We've got the Banshees actually showing up because the Mutas were obviously in the main base, so INnoVation felt maybe this is my moment to get a little bit of economic damage done, and he got 3 drones, but that's of course nothing crazy, especially not because soO is already at 72 workers. He is going absolutely crazy on the drone production. He's going to be supply blocked for a split second after losing his 1 Overlord on the other side of the map. soO is damn... Oh, there are Reader Mines here once again. Double mine shot connecting with the Mutas. -2 Mutas, and the rest of the Mutas are super low on HP. And INnoVation immediately looks at this and he's like, cool, I should start attacking now, because I'm not worried about Mutas that have like 10 or 20 health.
Yeah, that's for sure. And also, it's just going to be really well timed with his actual timing. 1-1 combat shields, everything's collected together. He's got an armory for Hellbats that can be healed up by the Medivacs. No tanks this time, right? But Widow Mines will actually be even better in a lot of cases. That's going to be denied.
Yep. Man, it makes you wonder what soO did that was so magical on Everdream, right? Where he was able to get this all going so quickly and so convincingly. The Mulas are going to pick up 1 or 2 of these Hellbats. That is nice. And soO is already re-expanding in the bottom left side. But if he would take a fight right now, he's obviously going to be down in upgrades. And there are multiple traps being set up as well with all these Widow Mines. This feels just awkward for soO. Like, oh, I'm really not feeling his position at this point.
Yeah, he might be able to just hold on here. And that 4th base isn't going to be under fire quite yet, just because INnoVation is scared of being overwhelmed. Obviously, it's not all of his army anymore. He's got a lot of reinforcements back at home, but the Banelings trying to get some decent connections really don't. And now with INnoVation being able to reinforce, he didn't get cleaned up here. Now we can maybe head towards that south. Yeah, hit the 4th base, and still before 1-1's done.
soO is actually still supply block. He once again has a lot of minerals in the bank, so he's just gonna go for it because he didn't want to wait until the next Overlord would pop. But that obviously is not a fantastic fight. His upgrades are gonna kick in now, so that's nice. And then he can maybe fire up 2-2 immediately, so he can keep his money a bit lower. He's gonna target the Widow Mines here with his Mutas, and that's an excellent decision. The Widow Mines actually dealing some friendly fire to the Marines as well, and all of a sudden things change for a much better outcome here for soO, as he's gonna be able to chase. I don't know if he should go this deep off creep, but hey, the Banelings are still alive.
Well, he's catching the rally in a straight line, so he's really trying to take advantage of that, which so far he is doing a good job. But when he reaches back to that 3rd base, INnoVation probably has just barely enough to hold. Of course, if soO really wanted to win, he'd have to have a couple more Banelings, I think, which he doesn't take time to morph. INnoVation also holding on to the missile turret, still alive here. Nope, no repair. That was a little bit of a mistake there, but he does hold on, because that can be scary. Like, if you find them with the ant line, right, going through the minimap, like, you can actually kill them as they realize, oh, I only have 5 Marines.
I would have actually loved to see those Banelings go for the STVs, because there were so many STVs clumped up there, and he had 2 Banelings, but instead he tried to get the juicy Marine connections. And of course, if you do get that, it's the jackpot. But I think settling for the guaranteed damage there, that would have been always good, would have been quite nice. But the best thing for all of that for soO is that he was taking those fights while he had some minerals in the bank. So now he had some time to spend it all. This is going to be a bit awkward, because I don't think that soO really realized that INnoVation is on the bottom side of the map. So he's gearing up for an attack. He's actually going to be able to deny drilling claws. Well, that's a pretty big deal as well. I feel, I would have blocked Stinker Banelings then, soO. I mean, soO is panicking a little bit. He was indecisive on the other side of the map, and now he's deciding to just go for it. So he's going to be able to get all these SCVs and maybe even the orbital. But he's going to end up at least losing 1 base, maybe even 2 bases on his side of the map.
Yeah, if he doesn't get the orbital, I still feel like it's okay for INnoVation, but if he had managed to get the orbital somehow too, or pop the 4th that's building, that I would have been scared of. But 23 SCVs down is something that INnoVation can recover from, because he will have 4 bases.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, he didn't manage to grab the drones at the 4th. He just killed. This might be an okay engagement. The Widowmine does not get a shot. However, he's going to lose Medivacs too if he's not careful. He's actually just going to pick up and try and go to that high ground, which is about the most clever thing he could do. But still, Baneling's going to come through and kill everything.
Yeah, I love those 4 Banelings already being there in position, ready to go for this army. That was an excellent cleanup by soO, and INnoVation just lost a pretty expensive army. Even if the majority of it was Marines, he lost all the Medivacs as well, and that makes it painful. And don't forget that the factory that was researching drilling claws got picked off as well. So INnoVation does not have that upgrade yet, and I hope that's something he's aware of, because he has 7 Widow Mines on the map at the moment, but no drilling claws.
If his army had been able to successfully get back to his 3rd, I'm still feeling this game, but this now down 50 supply. The Widow Mines are going to try and get the best shots possible, but some of them are good, others not so much. That one is okay. Are there going to be enough reinforcements here? Another Widow Mine does not get a shot off, and INnoVation, well, he might just have enough if he has a couple more reinforcements. Baneling's going to roll through and kill his STVs again, and that's just going to be too much to recover from, I think. soO's on 5 bases. In fact, INnoVation just did that scan that says, how screwed am I? It says, I'm screwed. GG.
Man, soO is actually, he took such a good fight when he was under pressure, when the Widow Mines were at the bottom of his ramp on his side of the map on Simulacrum. He was very patient. He waited for his upgrades to be done. And then when he finally went for it, there were quite a few mines, but the target firing with the Mulas on these Widow Mines made it such a good fight for him. He didn't even have that many units, but the mines just didn't do anything. They did not fire. They allowed soO to just clean those up and then bring the Lings and Banelings in. And I really felt that from that point on, I was like, okay, I kind of like where this is going. And he just had so many units. I mean, there was no infestation pit, there was no hive tech on the way, but hey, he had 5 bases and a ridiculous amount of Link Bane Muda.
Yeah, that was a really nice defense. I didn't think he was going to be able to clean that up entirely either, but obviously INnoVation didn't, or he wouldn't have been rallying like he did. That does put soO in a 2-1 lead. We're going to take a bit of a break just for the players to get their thoughts together here, but we're not going to go to a break. We're just going to discuss something very important. You know, we were having some competitions for the community while this entire event was going on for the last 4 weeks, and one of them was you guys are supposed to guess if TLO gets everything right or gets everything wrong. Well, now that it's all done, we finally have a chance to discuss our winner. So who is our winner for the TLO True or False competition? Johnny Whoop. He gets a secret lab chair. That's actually really sick. Of course, we've been sitting in these for the entirety of TSL. They're super comfy. They're really sleek, man. Like the presentation of these chairs are pretty awesome. So big congrats to you. He guessed TLO's predictions as correctly as anyone could. Some of them were pretty extreme. Some of them were easier than others, but well done, dude. And for the rest of the competitions that are happening on the community, we are actually going to be going to the forums later on. Of course, we still have to wait for the bracket prediction, for instance. We have to wait for this to be done.
I wonder who's got that correct. If somebody actually corrected like the majority of the upper bracket correctly, then they're insane. Okay, because that just shouldn't happen, right? Like we had too many surprises in this tournament for anyone to have a complete correct upper bracket predictions.
It's just like who got it best out of all the worst ones, you know? It's tough, but you'll be contacted on Team Liquid once this is all done, but not done yet. And then we do have one last question for our Ting call-in segment, so hit us with the question.
Hey guys, thanks for casting a great tournament. DRG was an awesome story this tournament. Anybody else you think could come back and make waves like him from the old days? Thanks again.
I mean, yeah, I think DRG is probably the most promising one right now. Maybe Tasia with his round of 16 performance, was it? Or 32? So, 16. Yeah, 16. There you go. So I think they are definitely the most promising ones. Am I missing any? Well, I mean, Parting is kind of from the old days, right? So that's always a bit of a question mark if we consider him one of those guys. He didn't technically go to military, but he did retire from StarCraft 2 for a while. Who else?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to go with Tasia as well, because I definitely see Tasia as one of the all-time greats as well, which is maybe a bit more controversial than INnoVation, because some people be like, you never won GSO Code S, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Okay, like Tasia, when he was truly on top of his game, he was so damn unbelievably good, and he was beating up the guys that were winning GSO Code S's in the tournaments that Tasia was always participating in. So I'm actually a bit disappointed, because I expected more of his comeback than we've seen so far. Like, I know that round of 16 performance was good, but if I think back of Home Story Cup 18, I believe it was, or 19, when he had that insane series against Serral, and that was only a couple of months after Tasia came back, right? So I was like, oh my god, like Tasia's gonna take over again. That didn't really happen. But I do think we have to mention Bjorn as well, because Bjorn, if he starts playing a lot again, if he's out of the military, like I think 2 months and he's back. Like that guy is so unbelievably good at StarCraft. He's so talented. So I definitely am a heavy Bjorn believer.
That's a good point. I kind of forgot that there was the rumors that he was back on. You know, whenever he had breaks in military, you'd see him play. If you were like friends on him with a Battle.net account, like you'd see him play. He's just really passionate about the game. But now that he's actually like fully out, yeah, that might be really sick. I think it's weird that all like the Terrans seem to have really made the strongest comebacks, because you know before Fantasy retired, he also came back, and then MMA came back for a little while, right, as well. Well, the Terran players are coming back, but
and
I guess
Bomber.
that's what makes very good point, and Bomber. But that's what makes DRG, I think, even more special, is that he's like one of the Zergs that came back and is already doing very well, causing upsets in this very tournament. Actually, his EVZ looks pretty sick, so he's probably my favorite player back in the day, just because his height was at the same time I was playing Zerg back in 2011 for a year. But people still think I'm Zerg. But yeah, I'm excited most about him. So he's also got a lot of personality, which I really think is going to work well on stage.
I'm still hoping that one day Rain decides that he had enough of Brood War and he comes back to StarCraft 2 as well. I would love that, you know, and then Rain and Stats can sit together and figure out the ultimate way to play Protoss. That's kind of my dream. But out of all the players that, you know, whether it's rumors or they're actively playing already, I think when Bjorn comes back, I honestly don't believe it will take him very long to at least make, like, let's say a quarterfinals in the GSL. Like, it's hard to predict, like, oh, he's going to win one again immediately. That's probably going to take a while because the guys that are currently on top are incredibly good as well. But I am 100% convinced that if Bjorn puts his heart to it, that he will be among the very best players in the world very quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it kind of feels like Bjorn exited StarCraft 2 when he's still at kind of a high point, I guess. Like, it just feels like he hasn't been as gone as long as everyone else, even though military service is the same for everyone. So, like, I don't know why it feels that way, but DRG, I look at him and I'm like, you know, they were not supposed to do, like, banning drops, right? Like, you're not supposed to go Bruthlyn and Fester, right? And he's like, no, I got it. But for Bjorn, yeah, I have no doubt that he'll immediately pick up every meta change that has existed, because he was still changing the meta before he even left. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was a little stubborn at one point, before he retired, right? He was still just doing all the same build. He's like, my Reaper micros the stickers, and we're like, yeah, we know Bjorn, but Reapers are just not the stickers anymore. You were too good with them, you know. They got nerfed, and still love the 2-1-1 every single game. He's like, I'll get so much value out of the Marines. Like, yeah, but Zerg is just too rich right now. But I do truly believe that if he would update his strategy arsenal a little bit, then that micro and those mechanics, yeah, I'd be a believer 100%.
I think last time I cast him, he was still doing the Raven Turtle strategy. Remember when that was a brief thing? Mass Raven with Mass Ghost before they changed the Raven. It wasn't called anti-armor missile at the time. Seeker missile. There we go. Mm-hmm. Changed to Seeker missile. Well, it was anti-armor missile, I guess, by Legacy of the Void. But anyways, the damage, just that's what really changes Seeker missile and anti-armor missile for me, is when they changed the damage, even though it was anti-armor as well back then. Anyways, yeah, he was actually getting really turtly. Very different than the Bjorn, who's super aggressive and 2-1-1 and Reaper shenanigans and all that. But yeah, I think we have a bit of a problem with the lobby right now. So we want to get back into the best of 7, guys. But this is I want to think of more players who are coming back. Curious. Oh, that's who I was going to try and call up. Like, Curious apparently is back or has been back. I'm not even sure. He was in the GSL qualifiers, though. I thought that was going to be a bigger thing, I guess, but I actually don't know what happened with Curious. So he's back, he's not back, but okay, now we are ready to go, actually, in this best of 7. We're going into game 4. INnoVation just had to relog a few times. We're finally ready to go, guys. So thank you for the call-in. Thank you very much to Ting for sponsoring this tournament. Make sure to check out tsl.ting.com to get some money off if it looks tempting. And now let's head into Purity and Industry. So we are going to be casting this map. Awesome. Yeah.
I was actually kind of worried that this would be like game 7 and then we either don't get to see it, or then people are like, oh no, now it's all going to get decided on Purity. Nope. Game 4, guys. So nothing actually ends here. And this is going to be, I'm personally really excited. Like, I know a lot of the pros are not a fan of the map, and, you know, maybe for all the right reasons, but that doesn't really change things for us, right? Like, often the maps that the pros hate the most, they do produce some insane games for us as viewers and entertainers. On the top side of Purity and Industry, we're looking at the main base of our Korean Terran. He's down 1-2. It is INnoVation.
In the middle right is the red Zerg. He is soO. The SimCity sound effects, man.
Now, what's extra interesting is, of course, that this map has been removed from the GSL. They replaced it with a 4-player map because I guess they were just not a fan of it and the players weren't a fan of it. So I can only assume that they probably vetoed it on the ladder at one point because, you know, most of the time they probably wouldn't get good games on this map anyway because so many of the other pros have it vetoed. So that makes me really curious to find out what kind of builds are they going to use. Is it going to be similar to what we've seen before? Is soO going for a 2-base? We might see something really crazy? Like, is he going for some sort of a Nidus? Will INnoVation play mech? I mean, if there is one map you want to play mech on, this could very well be it.
Perhaps, yeah. It's a little odd just because while Purity Industry is not in the GSL, they don't play the map that replaced it either.
Yeah, I know.
And they do play a lot of online tournaments. These guys, well, I mean, they're not like there all the time. Zest is a guy who plays in literally every single online tournament Korea has. INnoVation soO not as much, but they definitely aren't hoity-toity. I'm better than online tournaments, obviously. So they probably had to be. They're forced to plan this occasionally. I am still surprised to see it as part of the map picks that can almost certainly happen, right? If we're talking about leaving it for Game 7, we're usually saying, best of sevens, how often they get the game 7.
Yep.
But for game 4, I didn't expect this to be the map chosen. I wonder who chose it and for what reason. Sometimes it does sound like Zerg really hates it, but still, let this through earlier on.
I mean, INnoVation probably picked it, right? Because
I
soO
would say
probably
so,
picked
yes.
Everdream, and then INnoVation picked Nightshade, and then soO maybe picked Simulacrum, and then INnoVation picked Purity.
Something along those lines, yes. You have better memory than I do. But yeah, but it's also just because Purity Industry, apparently, like, you just don't hear much, like, and certainly there have been previous map pools where people have been a lot more vocal about the bad maps. But this one is, like, not so much. It does seem like Zerg are more keen to not appreciate it. So I'd say INnoVation chose it. As to what he specifically has in mind here, I'm not sure, but mech can be tricky because while you get like these bases that are kind of close to each other or they're up ramps, right, they're on chokes, like you do have to, it's weird to get your army through this map sometimes in terms of from the top to the bottom. From left to right it's easy enough, but that's one thing I've noticed personally playing. It may not be an issue for INnoVation, but we have to talk about the tank potential on the natural where soO's queens literally are right now. That can be kind of nasty.
It's going to be a 2-base lair opening once again on the side of soO. It's going to take some additional gases. INnoVation did not get to see that lair because soO decided to go lair in his natural, which means that if he does get tank push, it's going to be very important for him to actually keep that base alive. Otherwise, he would lose all his tech. And look at what INnoVation is doing. He's actually opening up with the medevac. So he's showing us a lot of variety so far. I love that he's showing the first 2 Hellions on the other side of the map, because soO is not somebody who has really been sending in a lot of overlords into the main bases of Inno so far, right? He just kind of has his overlords in certain spots, and the overlords may see this medevac while it's making its way to the main base of soO. The units could very well be out of position. I kind of like what Inno's doing here. I don't know if it's going to get a lot of damage done, but I like the idea behind it.
Well, I don't even think it's going to be scouted. The Overlord that's closest to it still seems a little bit out of position. I do like the 2 Hellions as well, not only scouting for what soO might be doing as far as an early push, but also, kind of convincing soO that everything is normal. When a medevac drop of Hellions is really not normal. So that does not see the medevac. It doesn't unload any secret place, though, so soO could still respond quickly enough, and he absolutely will.
Yeah, but it's only a couple of Zerglings, and with the queens out of position, this is still kind of awkward. There are some drones in a rather vulnerable spot. INnoVation decides to actually go for Zerglings up to this point. Now, finally, a couple drones do go down. Yeah, I think soO handled this super well. Given like how few units he had in position to deal with this, I think this is like the best defense you can really hope for if you're soO.
I wonder how much of that was just like, well, I don't have to have the Lings anywhere else, really, do I? Because he sees 2 Hellions at the front. He knows the choke is there, too, to alert him even more if there suddenly were 6 Hellions. So he's like, well, where else should the Lings be? Because the Lings are at the 3rd base or batch or whatever. Like, maybe those Hellions get 1 or 2 extra good shots, and it's like 6 or 7 drones killed instead of the 3. But
I mean, when you put it like that, yes, it's very logical. But for some reason, my units are always in the wrong position, okay? So I'm just impressed.
I'm just trying to make it even more impressive that he would even, be thinking of that. Because I would absolutely have my Lings just wherever. I wouldn't even care. Liberator coming through the natural is kind of one of those sneakier spots to do so. Apparently, INnoVation just trying to find all the sneaky paths. As far as it actually doing damage is another question, though.
Queens are good.
Yeah, they are.
They have recently been releasing these beautiful statues, right? Like Wardy has the Battlecruiser statue, and I think it's super awesome. And I was so jealous that I ordered it too. Then they announced the Carrier statue, and I was like, oh my goodness, of course I need it. And I truly can't wait for the Queen statue. Like that's just what I need to complete my collection.
Who needs a Leviathan? The Queen's the real power unit, the Zerg.
I know. We're talking capital ships and capital units. I want the Queen. If it's not the Queen, I'm going to be so disappointed. Ultralisk could be cool, but I really want to see a Queen. With full energy, of course.
Yeah, I hope they give her, like, creep-spreading powers. That'd be pretty cool.
You wake up and your entire room is covered in mud. You're like, what the hell? One hell of a statue.
soO's early mutas doing some pressure, but doing just mostly a lot of scouting. Just expand forward makes a lot of sense. It also helps against those run-by potentials, since hopefully you're quick to the draw and supply depot raises. And we'll see the left side of this map used more if we get to that point. INnoVation's first push with the tanks is quite scary, but we've been saying that a lot. And soO has been able to push it back. So I still believe in him.
It's going up to 4 bases already. This is a difficult map, I think, for the Mudas to really get a lot done, right? Because you don't want to go through all those inhibitor zones either, because then it takes forever for them to come back. So soO is trying to get done whatever he can get done just to buy that bit of extra time. He will have Baneling speed, and he did take care of those destructible rocks. So he's going to have a good launch pad from the high ground to maybe get a good engagement. Look at Inno, a bit traumatized, I think, of what happened on Everdream. And he's like, that madman is going to take another fight off creep ball. I'm going to siege up this time.
Yeah, not taking any chances there. That doesn't mean that he won't be able to use the choke at all. I mean, plus the rocks are broken, but he really is not threatening soO right now. So this is actually getting to a point where INnoVation, either needs to reinforce or just back off entirely. He is kind of doing both. You could always run through the middle where the Xel'Naga is to get another choke on your side, but it can be a dangerous thing to depend on. So he's just going to try and rally through here. And it's going to get scarier when the creep starts getting cleaned up. But for now, soO, he's built up quite a large Baneling force.
Uh-oh. This could very well, I won't say beat a moment. I love how Inno's almost baiting him as well, right? He unsieges everything and then sieges immediately, hoping that soO does decide to go for it. soO decided he had enough. He doesn't really believe that Inno is all that aggressive, so he's sending his Mutalisk to the main base. The Mutas are in a pretty decent number. INnoVation gonna have to repair that turret immediately, and he's too late. So that means that his turret is going to fall, a lot of SCVs are gonna go down, and this is where things get awkward, because does soO have enough Lings and Banes in the bottom side of the map to fight the main army of INnoVation?
I don't know. It's going to be a creep, but INnoVation, he does pay attention in time, retargets his tanks as well, and spreads his Marines. And this was actually a disaster. soO almost caught him not paying attention, but even if he had gotten that first group of Marines, I'm not sure it would have been good enough. There just simply wasn't enough units. INnoVation goes from kind of guarding a not so important middle of the map to instantly bopping that 4th base. soO forced to evacuate. Is not going to tap out of this game, of course. He managed to save at least some of his army to hold on to his 3rd.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, he needs to like double expand once he gets rid of this army.
He didn't lose any drones either. Like losing the hatch is obviously a very big deal, but he didn't lose any drones. So I think that's the real good thing about all of it. soO's going to try to fight this army, but it's obviously going to be off creep. And if INnoVation keeps sieging, it just makes it so damn difficult for soO to find the right moment to really go for it. And we can see on the minimap already, INnoVation is sending his reinforcements to this army. soO not paying attention there with his Mutas, ends up losing 2 of them immediately. I love the way that Inno's playing this out, and this just feels really awkward for soO. You can see him looking, he's trying to find an opening, but there just isn't really any.
Yeah, and he can't really take any other expansion. Like, he's going to be up to a 4th base again, but as INnoVation slaps his 4th on location, that gets really scary. But yeah, where else are you going to take a 5th? Like, they're both going to be taken out. So you're going to have to try and really just demolish this push and push INnoVation all the way back home. But he's actually down, like, full 2 upgrades. His 2-2 was quite late, probably found to remake Banelings or prioritizing the Muta count or something along those lines. So that's far, far off. He's going to go for a big surround. Muta's jumping on top of the tanks, trying to target them down fast enough. The Banelings do their job, which they do. A lot of Marines just went down there, enough to force INnoVation to pack up and go home.
Wow. I mean, that was kind of a crazy fight by soO, because at one point, the only thing I saw were Marines on their Mutas just firing away. And I'm like, oh my god, that can't possibly be good. But then the Banelings just came crashing in from every angle, and that Marine count was dwindling real quick. And all of a sudden, soO keeps the base alive. He still has those 75 drones. And I do want to say, though, Jazz, you said, where else is he going to expand? Hear me out. Drop a Lord, pick up a drone, go to the island.
Hear me out. Gold base. Bottom.
Yes, hidden gold. Look at the INnoVation's vision. He didn't check it once. And he didn't see the island since the first medevac drop. Missed opportunity, in my opinion.
That would be super sick, but no one ever thinks about that. And of course, as soon as it's figured out, like, oh, defending that's going to be a big pain. So he just takes the more, usual one, which is the one in the middle here. But it's
a bit boring, but I'll accept it.
It is boring. It's also kind of just like scary. You're actually, technically you're expanding towards your opponent, and that's generally where the Zerg doesn't want to be unless they're being the aggressor. Which, soO. Oh my god, INnoVation was not paying attention. He actually catches INnoVation so off guard once again. At least the pickup was good, and maybe he'll be able to hold back at home. Yeah, he's fine, but that was scary.
Yep, I was a bit worried because it was right before the upgrades were going to kick in. These Widow Mines have fired before. Overseers are here, going to provide detection. And now soO might actually be able to chase down these 2 medevacs. And all of this turned out to be a pretty damn okay trade for soO. 1 Muta did go down there, but that is going to be it, I believe. Well done. Now, does, of course, have a lot of units in the center of the map. We do see an infestation pit this time, so this is not like Simulacrum, where soO decides to stay on lair. No, he does want to tech up eventually, but he is going to be forced to take a couple fights off creep into Widow Mines. Can it be good?
Widowmine's getting mostly the lings. A lot of banelings still left over, but it is off creep, so soO has to decide and decides to pull back. He's actually maybe going to go for a surround. He's kind of trapped INnoVation into this Zelnaga place. The banelings on the left side are not going to connect, but the right side might be a different story. The Muta's actually numerous enough to take on those Marines as well. The Thor has to get involved to bully them back, but soO, he almost had a surround there.
That was beautiful. And that was really beautiful. Obviously, the reinforcements kind of saving the day there. And I love it that Inno was also going to put down those mines immediately, as our observer is showing us as well. These mines did survive. soO has to be super careful about it. Well, it turns out that 2 Zerglings are going to give soO the heads up. And that is very good information. Because imagine if you run across that with 15 Banelings when you're not paying attention.
Yeah, right. Overseers just got caught up. There are 2 more Widow Mines to this side that could bop a Muta or 2, but a very weak drop going to the south side. I guess it's not going to be found out, but yikes.
I always frown a little bit when I see this. Like, he's got like 7 medevacs. Do you really need to send the one that's got like 12 HP? The Muta count is quite decent. We're looking at 18 Mutalisk at the moment, forced to. See, I kind of like what this game is bringing us. Purity in industry. Everybody's always hating on this map. I think it's giving us some pretty good entertainment so far.
Yeah, I agree. The left side of the map's going to be used, which, feels like it doesn't happen that often. soO has also pushed out his creep a decent amount, so he's pretty prepared for this push, or about as prepared as he could be. Hive is finishing, so yeah, maybe he'll try and go for ultras, but they won't be here for this fight.
He only has 23 Banelings, but he's got over 100 Zerglings. Some good Tor micro there as well. These Banelings really not getting that much done, and I'm starting to get really concerned because he only has 12 Banelings, but he was morphing a lot of additional Banes on the high ground. They have finished up. There's so many Widow Mines here, though, and that does make this very difficult for soO to engage. He's setting up a little bit of a link flank as well. Maybe just trying to cut off some reinforcements. I'm not sure what he's going for.
Maybe it was supposed to be one or the other, but now it's going to be the direct push from the right side to the left. Thors are taken out immediately, but only after getting up some pretty damn good shots on those Mutas. Only 3 are left over. The ground of the Zerg army might be a different story, but it's starting to run out of steam. soO actually down 20 supply. He was up against 3-3 upgrades for that push, and the Muta count down as it is can't really take out these medevacs too convincingly.
Nope, we went from 18 Mutas back to 4. Now soO is rebuilding 12 of them, but a new Thor shows up as well. We still have Widowmine with Drilling Claws. During all of this, soO is trying to get his own 3-3 upgrades going, because the Hive did finish up and Adrenal Glands, but I am afraid that he's going to be forced to evacuate this base. Maybe try to save a couple of the drones towards the bottom. Yeah, losing all the Mutas was the worst part about all of that, right? Like, if he would have survived that fight with 12 or 14 Mutas, feel like, okay, maybe there is still hope that his own upgrade is going to finish up. He is going to try to save the day here with the few Zerglings and hoping for some friendly fire, but that is not going to happen. The Widowmine's firing at the Mutas, and I think that soO is running out of steam here as GG gets called, and INnoVation will tie things up.
Yeah, tied up series once again. We can kind of maybe say for soO that was a map that he was going to be uncomfortable on regardless. So maybe he's kind of just like, whatever, man, like Pure Industry is super cool. On to the next game. But I actually thought that he put himself in about as decent positions as you can expect as a Zerg player. He caught up on upgrades, which were like, really, they were far apart. But he caught up as much as you would expect as a Zerg player again. He had as much creep spread as you would expect and as many mutas as you would expect. But the engagements were just a little too much, a little too off of creep. Little too few Banelings. Wouldn't mind sometimes going in favor, but the final battle, 3 Thors. To take down 3 Thors and expect your mutas to live, yeah, it's gonna be kind of impossible.
He's like, well, I've done it before against Mech, I just flew over 5 Thors and I killed all of them. But yeah, this time I was like, you're like, the Mutas, and I was like, which Mutas, I felt like I blinked and I'm like, which Mutas? He's got 4 left, and I was like, I'm pretty sure he just had 18 before the battle started. And the next map could very well be a crucial one, of course. If you win this, you put yourself on championship point. It is going to be played on Eternal Empire. Of course, one of the maps that will stick around for the next season as well. And also a map that has provided some ridiculous TVZs over the last few months. So I kind of feel like this is and like, I don't know if there must be an official statistic for this, but I feel like going up 3-2 when you're tied up, like that must give you an insane chance to actually win the entire tournament. It must be like over 80%.
Really, going up 3-2 is over 80%. Yeah, I guess considering how many 4-2s we see compared to 4-3s, like, Yeah, I guess I would agree with you. 4-2 kind of being also the number that everyone guesses, right? If they can't quite decide, but they want to give the guy they're going to lose a little bit of credit. It's always a 4-2.
Yeah, we didn't do official predictions actually for the grand finals. It would have been fun.
It's true. I think we talked about it though. We said INnoVation was going to win, but I guess we didn't say map score.
I think I would have gone for 4-1 and then hoping I would have been wrong so we get a much closer series, or hoping I'm really wrong and then soO wins it, which I think would be super hype. But he's definitely in it, man. He's making this a super competitive series, and perhaps he doesn't even deserve to be the underdog because he's playing damn well so far. We're all tied up, bottom left side, the main base of a Korean Zerg player, soO.
In the top right is the red Terran. He is INnoVation. All right, so back to a normal map here, Eternal Empire, one of our most played maps as
Back
well.
to StarCraft, actually, Jess. Back to StarCraft.
Yeah, not the weird stuff here. I love that soO has been adding a dot to good luck every loss. You know, that makes sense. Eventually, he'll be dotting again. So, I'm gonna only assume what that could mean. But yeah, Eternal Empire. We see probably the most epic games on this map. I know Golden Wall has given us a lot of really good games, and I mean, if I had to guess, that might be the next map. What maps are left over? Golden Wall and
Zen?
Yes, you're right, Zen. I was like, I couldn't think of the color palette. But yeah.
I always find that hard as well. When I'm thinking of like the maps, I'm like, come on, I play all day. Like I don't even veto any maps. How do I not think of the last map that's missing so far? You know, I do want to say that if I was playing against anybody that just like 37 or 42 seconds into the game would drop the good luck ... I'd be so nervous. Okay, I'd be sending out 2 probes around my main base, and I'd be scouting everything, and I will turn around my pillow as well before I go to bed at night, because that is just really intimidating. Who does that? 35 seconds into the game. Good luck ...
That does add to it, doesn't it? Like it's so late, you're just like, okay, what were you cheesing
Yeah.
the first 45 seconds?
Like you got no idea what's happening, but good luck, mate. You're gonna need it. It's like, no.
Yeah. soO has been getting into the minds of his opponents with those dots, man. INnoVation. Yeah, no 2 racks yet. Not this game either. So I guess he doesn't think it's so successful, or doesn't see the need for it. He really got into Rainer's head by kind of restarting the series with the 2 racks, but hasn't done so yet against soO. Maybe he thinks that soO's a stronger defender against that build. Does feel like Rainer sometimes gets tilted off of it, but
I also do think that worker micro cross server is very difficult. I know that may sound silly, but like obviously early game, every little movement, every hit matters. And I think microing drones or microing probes cross server is actually kind of difficult when you both have high ping. Well, maybe he just feels that soO is going to have indeed perfect defense because they're playing on the Korean server.
It's a good point. You know, sometimes it is more about the worker micro than the marine micro, but sometimes it happens the opposite way. But I was going to say, like, I think like a 2 racks and mech, right? Those 2 options that, you know, still exist, still could have 2 more games here. Might not actually be seen in this best of 7, which I'm okay with. Means that we get at least like 7-minute games every time. And I don't know, I feel like mech is as cool as it can be to mix things up. Obviously, mech versus trap was super cool. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like Terrans are actually, even if they do it, they don't really seem that they think it's that great. I don't know. Ooh, there's going to be a nice scout from soO. You know, he talked about it last game, how he doesn't have a lot of Overlord suicides. But this one might actually see the 3rd. Oh, no, he's not going to commit to it. Oh, no, he already saw it. So that's a really good scout then.
Yeah. Unless he read that that's like the world's biggest barracks. He's like, man, that is one fat barracks. But don't think that's going to be the case. So I like it for soO. That's the first time that he actually does this and gets what he's looking for. Should give him a very comfortable peace state of mind for the first few minutes here of Eternal Empire. I've got pretty high hopes for this game. I feel like today we've been somewhat spoiled, right? I feel like some of the INnoVation trap games, they could have been perhaps been more epic than they actually were, but they were still fun, and overall that was definitely an entertaining best of 5. And so far, this grand finals, I think, is everything we hope for. Maybe some longer games, more blood, more violence, but you know, it's close, it's competitive. We see different openings being used as well, so I'm definitely on board with everything that we got so far.
Yeah. Eternal Empire also has a lot of promise to give us a really long action-packed game. A couple games have just been that bop on the 4th base, but I think soO's shown that he's capable of defending the first push out really, really well. INnoVation is going to be streamlining his build towards that. He really didn't bother with anything extra, no tank that he doesn't really need immediately, just using his factory to build reactors for his barracks. And he's not even he didn't even build a natural wall. He just went immediately into building the wall that guards the choke. So really streamlining here.
I know, that's kind of crazy actually when you think about it. Because if you do this on the ladder, then you've got 18 Zerglings show up against your 4 Marines. So you're like, no. The INnoVation is like, no, that's just not going to happen. We've got a couple of Hellions out on the map. They will tell me everything I need to see, and I know that soO is not going to take that risk to produce those Zerglings when he doesn't need it. He's going to be a greedy boy. We see Spore Crawlers going down in every single base as well. That's kind of funny, because there isn't really a real reason for it, but can still come in handy later on against drops, I guess.
I guess he hasn't really seen what type of 3cc play it is, which has been something I know we've talked about before. Like, he saw the 3rd CC, but there are still fast 3rd CC builds that get like a defensive Banshee at the very least. Well, I would say usually not cloaked Banshees, but okay, it's going to be safe. You can reposition them for drops in the future, I suppose, or Liberator harassment, but maybe a little unnecessary. 4th base does come down. Obviously, again, priority on the mutas and also centrifugal hooks so it doesn't die. Never really going into those fast upgrade builds that we can see from other Zergs. And we're just waiting for INnoVation to pull the trigger. Once he has the tank count, he might... No, actually, he can't do it. Yeah, so he's going to wait for the tank count. I keep thinking like, well, there's a meta backdrop potential, but that one soO always goes past mutas.
He's going to pick up at least a couple of Marines. Yeah.
All right.
Maybe just to be annoying. Maybe try to find the Queens if they're a bit exposed, right? If they're out of position. At the same time, the Hellions are taking a really interesting tour. That's unbelievable. The Zergling just barely missed that medevac. I kind of like what Inno is doing here, because he's going to show the Hellions on the top side. soO might actually bring a couple of units to deal with those Hellions. Yeah, it doesn't really fall for it. It's like, wait a minute, just Hellions? I know what's happening over here. Now, these Marines can obviously stim. They can go for a Queen. 1 Queen does fall immediately. That's a decent start for Inno, I'd say.
I actually kind of like that he's doing the drop. I mean, he might have been able to do... Oh, okay. Well, that was maybe a little bit too late in the target fire. But I was trying to say that if he just controls it correctly, maybe he even could have done it in some other games. But it can be risky, because obviously if that Baneling hit is with 10 more Lings and the mutas are also here, like, this might have actually already been pushed back. But mutas were trying to get some harassment, which didn't do anything. And he is going to stay his ground, funnily enough, with a very few amount of units, because, well, soO also doesn't have a lot of units, not yet anyways.
soO's just trying to do whatever he can right now to buy a little bit of time for himself, so his upgrades can finish up as well. There isn't a lot of creep at this 4th base, and that is something we've obviously seen in a lot of ZVTs on this match, but it is still very concerning, especially if INnoVation is already morphing his Hellions into Hellbats. The tanks are not quite in range, but his hatchery already took a little bit of a beating before from the 60 Marines. Keeping this base alive is pretty crucial for soO.
Yeah, he's going to pull the trigger on it, go for the tank immediately with the mutas. The Marines are spreading out. The fan of Marines was actually just too damn good. The tank fire wasn't even really what took him down. It was just how many Marines, not enough Lings to cover the Banelings, and the muta count. Well, it didn't even successfully take out the tank. Now they're dying to the Marines, and this is just one of those snowballs. I really didn't think soO was going to fall to this one, considering the last 4 games have gone the way they did, but he too will die around the 4th base on Eternal Empire.
Yep. Now the reinforcements are on the way as well. INnoVation may not actually need those reinforcements, because he still has so many Marines alive from the previous fight. soO is realizing that he's in all the trouble. He is flooding some money after losing that 4th base. Doesn't have the larva anymore. But look at these Marines go. Nothing is going to stop them. And even though we had high hopes of Eternal Empire, this is all INnoVation, who now takes a 3-2 lead. He takes the lead for the first time in the series. And, well, that was definitely the most convincing game from both of them, either way.
That was
as a win, that is. Obviously, it wasn't a convincing game. You know what I mean, Jess.
I know what you meant. Yeah. It's just so surprising that this is not the first time that we've seen INnoVation do it, or just Terrans do it in general. Obviously, the Zergs know that that's going to be a hot point. That's going to be something they're not going to defend. But I guess anything can really set off the momentum. I mean, the fact that INnoVation did get a very greedy start probably already gave him a little bit more, right? A little bit faster on the 2 medevac drop, for instance. The fact that drop did kill a Queen and 3 Banelings, maybe lost a couple of Marines, but it stood there. The mutas couldn't do anything. Like, it's just like tiny little things. And suddenly you see an attack that just looks like, how in the world does the Zerg even hold, right? Everyone keeps falling to it.
Well, I also have to mention that soO obviously made a bunch of spore crawlers that never really contributed anything to this game. And it may seem like we're nitpicking, but it does really all add up, right? Like suddenly soO does have 8 with 10 more Zerglings, and he's actually going to force INnoVation to pick up. But then the Mutas maybe show up, they snipe one of those medevacs, and then it's just a little bit easier for soO to defend. I mean, these games are brutal, especially when you play against INnoVation. He doesn't need a lot to work with. If you make 1 or 2 errors, and then on top of that, some great control by INnoVation, suddenly games can just end like that. And that is obviously very unfortunate. soO perhaps went a bit too greedy as well. Like he just kind of rushed into those 72 drones. And then on top of that, obviously lost a couple drones by building spore crawlers and stuff like that. Just didn't have that many units.
Yeah. I feel like, there's always that potential that he just sacrificed the 4th and don't take the fight. That can also sometimes work. I do wonder if that would have been better, but had he just had a few more units, he probably thought he had enough, really. I mean, I looked at it when it went, I was like, okay, it's about to go down. Well, that seems like enough Zerg. And then it just wasn't. It wasn't actually even comparable by the time the fight was over. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't really blame you, soO, I guess. But that did not go well. And now we're on to the potential final game. Roddy just talked about how unlikely it is to really get to game 7 in this type of situation. So as we head into Golden Wall, fans of soO don't want to see him get another 2nd place. You really got to put your heart into the cheers this time, because this is not looking so good. In the bottom left, he just got kind of demolished on Eternal Empire, rather. How is he going to do on Golden Wall? It is the blue Zerg, soO.
Yay!
And in the bottom right side of Golden Wall, the man who's at championship point at this point. He started in round 1 of the lower bracket, but here we are. It is INnoVation.
Whoopee!
What a sick run that will be. I don't want to be too dramatic when I'd be like, that's one for the history books, but that is pretty damn insane though. Like if you drop to round 1 of the lower bracket, and then on top of that, this is a tournament where everyone is talking like, this could very well, without exaggeration, be the most stacked lower bracket of all time. Then making your way through all of that into the grand finals, and then to make things even better, you take out the guy that actually sends you to the lower bracket. I mean, you can't really make that up, Jess.
It's sweet story right there. He gets dropped down despite being seeded. It didn't matter for being seeded. He still dropped down to the first round of the lower bracket. And he took out Solar, Cure, Mana, Raynor, and a Laser, obviously proving his TVZ medal throughout the entire tournament, but almost being tripped up by 2 Zergs. Raynor almost got him as well. And now he's getting some serious revenge. And I'm really feeling it, As we said, both thought that INnoVation was going to win. Just his performance right now feels so good. But I'm sure there's some people in the chat who are also like, well, soO's just cursed. And well, after like 5 years of StarCraft, sometimes it does feel that way.
Yeah, it's brutal. I don't even want to harp on that storyline too much anymore, because it's like people often focus on the negative aspect of him getting so many 2nd places, and obviously that is sad. But the fact that he keeps getting to finals over and over again throughout many years of StarCraft 2 in Legacy of the Void, where we feel people are playing at an insane level, like that is super impressive. But it does hurt to see him fall short so often. Then again, he did win the Intex Remastered Katowice, which is like what any nerd would ever dream of. So we don't have to feel super sad if he takes another 2nd place, but still a little sad.
There's always that one guy that's like, he won a Kespa Cup or something, and it's like...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's not count soO out yet entirely. Golden Wall, for the at the very least, it creates some dynamic games, which is actually how soO was able to clutch it versus INnoVation in the last time they played in TSL. Just kind of made the game a little weird, right? So that could happen here, and it's already a bit weird. There is no SDV blocking that 3rd. He's actually just convincing INnoVation he's going for a 2-base Spire again, when he's not. That's actually pretty sick.
I love it. Hidden base. This is like Twitch chat, man. Like I feel like lately, the last month, whenever I play games, my Twitch is always like, scout for hidden bases. I'm like, it's not possible. He's like, yeah, well, he's still building Marines. He must have a hidden base. Like, no, that's mules, man. Like, and now we actually see it in games. Oh, no, INnoVation. Don't you dare. Okay. I really don't want INnoVation to scout this just for the memes, because I want to see Inno be really confused. I want to see him worry about Nidus networks. I want to see him scout the bottom of the map. Reaper hops in. Okay, doesn't get into the main base, so he may very well assume that the main base is the one that's being upgraded to a lair, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Lair here, and then gases being taken like in a little while, right? But not quite yet. So really, it does point to, well, 2 builds that soO's already used. Like he's already done 2-base mutas. so it's not out of the question to do it here on Golden Wall. As far as what that really changes for INnoVation, I do think it changes the pacing, right, of his attacks, of like how he chooses to attack. But as far as changing his build, it shouldn't really. There are some Terran players who like to like add 2 barracks before a 3rd CC against a 2-base muta build, but I think that's actually just kind of like general consensus, not the best answer. You just generally still do the same thing. But
I'm actually smiling. I find it so crazy. When your tournament life is on the line, you just casually take a hidden base in the top left side of Golden Wall against one of the greatest players of all time. Like, who does this? I find this so crazy, but I love it.
It's crazy in this matchup specifically, too. Like, as the Zerg player, like, this is why it's so bizarre. Like, a Terran player doing it, we kind of be like, well, it's like, yeah, you can also 2 racks, and like, yeah, we expect that too. But for a Zerg player that's so far away from creep, obviously Queens can't help defend it if it is found out, and it doesn't push your creep forward like as much in this circumstance either, because it's kind of awkward on Golden Wall. Like,
this is so funny.
Weird.
INnoVation mined out the middle of the map because he's like, I'm gonna get my Hellions towards the bottom because that's probably where you're going to expand. And he's like, what? And now I really wonder. I'm actually gonna follow INnoVation's vision for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, he'll scout the 4th at the 3rd and be like, well, clearly there's a 3rd somewhere. But still not going to happen. He's actually going to potentially sacrifice his Hellions. There are Lings, so I don't think it's going to be a good idea. He's going to force the issue. Maybe he really wants to get into the main base, but it's not going to really happen.
Wow, he's losing all of his Hellions besides one Hellion.
Oh,
Does actually get trapped in the main base, or excuse me, on the ramp as well. So INnoVation still doesn't get into the main. He does have a Viking shooting at a couple of Overlords, and the Liberator is about to head into the main base.
Oh, okay. All right, so, yeah, sorry. So I was just like looking at like, what do you do from here, right? You can successfully convince your opponent that you're going for fast mutas, but as I was trying to say, like sometimes the Terrans kind of, you know, maybe the missile turret's a bit faster, a bit slower, something like that, but otherwise they kind of do the normal build. But soO's not just going for not 2-base Spire, he's also not doing the 3-hatch Spire either, right? Because that's kind of the 2 things we've seen, like the only 2 things. He's actually doing the upgrade build that...
Well, Spire.
It is a Spire, don't get me wrong, but I mean, the upgrades come first. So the upgrades here actually matching INnoVation might be a big shock to him. Because I was like all caught up in like, well, what's the biggest difference between 2-base and 3-base fast Spire? You know, Spire before upgrades. And well, with upgrades, that's going to be a bit different for INnoVation's push.
Well, INnoVation is going to find a hatchery at this point, and he's like, hey, that's kind of fast for a 4th base. That doesn't really make any sense. How do you have that many drones there already? So INnoVation now aware of what has happened. INnoVation is going to float over his 3rd command center towards the gold. So he's obviously going to be able to produce an insane amount of Marines. How many barracks are we currently at? It's 5. Do you think he's going to go 8 racks? Or are we going to see a 2nd factory?
I think 2nd factory, just off of what he's been doing. He could change it up for Golden Wall, though. But yeah, I guess, you know, also thinking it's a 2-base Spire, he did build missile turrets when he didn't need them. I mean, they're going to be useful now, but they were faster than they should have been. And he also might have delayed his 3rd. Because, you know, you think they're also macro and you can take that about as soon as possible.
I'm a bit worried that soO doesn't have any proper vision, actually, of this army. I don't know if the Overlord spots it. The Overlord does catch a glimpse of it. So hopefully soO is going to send a couple of units towards the top side. Because 10, 12 Marines with Stim, they are going to be able to get on top of these drones real quick. soO is terribly out of position. The good news for soO is that INnoVation didn't know how far away his units really were. INnoVation is going to dive pretty deep at this point and gets a couple of drones before getting out of there. That's a lot of Zerglings, by the way.
Yeah, INnoVation's push, not only did it take a long time having to go the pathway that it did, it also didn't have a 2nd tank, and that might have been due to his confusion about the build and what it was. Now he has a very clear idea of what it is. He saw the upgrades on the Lings. He sees the need to take out his Liberator, but the damage, however like slight and you know it's been done. So now to play Golden Wall, the rest of Golden Wall here, what are his choices? Either 2nd factory or those barracks. We got it on fairly soon. He's still going to try and push to the north, but this is really tricky. I mean, you can't reinforce it.
Nope.
So,
and you're most likely going to get surrounded. But it's a little bit hard for soO to engage as well, right? Especially if you want to set up a big surround, you come in from the right side, then you are pretty far off creep. So if INnoVation suddenly turns around and fights that army first, like I think this becomes very tricky for both of them. Let's just see who handles the situation better. The tanks are in a good spot, but obviously not in range of the hatchery. So I think soO has a little bit of time to find the ideal way to engage this.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. He can kind of size this up and see what he wants to do here. Keep in mind that it's not pressuring the hatchery, it's also not pressuring creep, so if he is pushed back, he has a long road ahead of him for this game. It looks like he might just be pushed back. Tanks are already going down to the Lings and the Mutas. Baneling's still left over, trying to be target fired there. INnoVation trying to make something out of being pushed all the way back home. Reinforcements might be able to help out, but it is so awkward. It's such a long distance to actually pressure the Zerg from here.
Yeah, but that's still a lot of Marines. I kind of would like to see soO turn around, because now he's out of Banelings, and it means the Marines are just going to stand there for now. In the end, he is going to force INnoVation to pick everything up, and maybe he just did have enough Zerglings and Banelings in the end. There are still few more Marines here. INnoVation's going to have to split his Marines. Does not really do that, so he ends up losing 6 or 7 more than he really had to. Man, soO's got some money in the bank as well.
I think he once again does not go for a macro hatchery, and he hasn't gone for a 5th yet either, so might be a consistent problem. Well, INnoVation does hold, and that was a little bit scary since he was reinforcing. Again, that snowball effect can happen, but he had a tank that just popped out that really helped. And the really good news, I think, for INnoVation is that he did have his 4th on location. It's great he has a 4th in general, but the fact that it's also on location, not something you usually see Terran players get away with, but really nice, because he is in a difficult spot. soO double expands to the gold as well, and can start teching, he can start using his mutas to harass. Like, the map is his. INnoVation's pressure did not do very much.
There is no infestation pit yet, so I do think it's important that if soO wants to stay on lair tech, that he starts getting some real good damage done soon, right? Like, obviously that previous fight went really well, and he handled it. He's getting +2 flyer attacks on the Midas, but there we do have that infestation pit, and I'm kind of happy to see it, because I feel like it doesn't matter how far ahead you get, if eventually you're going to be 2 upgrades behind and fighting off creep, like we've seen that many times in the past, Terran army can just be a little too much to deal with. So I'm happy to see him drop the infestation pit and potentially go hive.
INnoVation not starting his 3-3 too quickly. He's actually kind of gas starved, adding on the Thor, adding on just a second factory, I guess. Hey, the Thor's really taking up most of his gas, so the 4th base gases might need to be taken. He could actually lose what is... I mean, let's think about how often we see a substantial 3-3 upgrade difference in this matchup. This might actually be like a 30-second upgrade difference if INnoVation doesn't get on it. I'm actually kind of like thinking... I keep rechecking just to make sure he hasn't actually started it. I feel it's so bizarre.
I don't think he's aware of it either. It also felt that his 2-2 upgrades were a tiny bit distinct, because I think he started armor a bit later than attack, so maybe he's like, I'm just going to wait until armor is done as well and start both of them at the same time, but he definitely forgot at this point, because it would be the most important thing to get in this game. Now the hive is halfway done, armies are getting pretty close to each other. There is a drop on the top side of the map that can potentially get some damage down, because soO did not see it. I love how far north INnoVation really went with it, because even on the mini-map, I think that kind of stuff is sometimes hard to see.
He finally starts one of the upgrades, so he is aware, but he's really... If soO also immediately starts his upgrades, and he certainly has the bank for it, it really won't be as big of a difference as most Terrans would like. Mutas were thinking about going to the main base to kill some production, but actually going to pull back. INnoVation not just bringing that 1 medevac over, but 3 more, actually, so 4 in total. It's kind of an odd little drop. It's actually a big committal of units when you include the medevacs.
Yeah.
I guess it'll escape, so oh well.
Maybe INnoVation just wanted to clean up some creep in the center of the map, and he's like, I'm going to make sure he takes my army on the top side serious. Obviously, INnoVation does a very high mineral income, being on 4 bases, having the gold as a Terran. So it's going to get a little awkward, might end up losing a couple of medevacs in the end. It's so shocking that he indeed has not started +3 army yet, while he's been maxed out for quite some time at this point.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you see that armor delayed, but that's usually because things are like really, they're going, right? Like you can't pay attention, you don't have enough gas, but INnoVation has all those things. Oh, the fight's gonna happen. Wouldn't mind, I get some okay shots, I guess, but a lot of reinforcements behind this, so INnoVation could evacuate if things are going too poorly for him, which I think is what he's gonna have to do. Yeah, boost those medevacs back home. soO is gonna push you back and maybe take out that Thor. Good God.
Oh my god, the medevac had like 2 HP. I do like that. Oh no, in the end it still goes down as it's being carried by a healthier medevac. And it really does feel that soO just has a ridiculous amount of units. On top of that, soO can make so many units during all of this. I mean, this was a massive victory for soO, right? This was kind of where INnoVation was probably hoping to get a really good fight. Well, that wasn't the case at all. If anything, that was a victory for soO. And then if you take into consideration that soO has all these bases, has now all the time to get more creep going in the center of the map, and is way richer than INnoVation, this wasn't just a victory for soO, this was massive.
it's hard to recover from any of these scenarios. Really, the INnoVation has been presented with trying to push when he's, been with the wrong idea of the build in the beginning of the game, and then just trying to push cross map diagonal to the top left. Like, that is always going to be difficult. And now even being bullied back from the middle, where like you're kind of up a creep, you have a okay Widow Mine set up, you have a okay concave, and he still pushes you back. Like, it's hard not to get demoralized when those things start to happen. But INnoVation, collect himself, right? Just take a deep breath and protect his 5 bases. He can even start maybe experimenting with the bottom side of the map, like going for bases there, or even dropping or pushing down to the south. But that's might be an issue.
I mean, we saw the magical comeback that INnoVation had on this map against Reynor as well, but that was obviously a very different scenario, different economies, different unit composition. I love this little veiling buzz from the south side. As the golden wall is no more, INnoVation is paying attention though, so it doesn't really get much done other than a couple of turrets, but I still love the idea.
And missile turrets still actually, Dreamer was turrets, you don't want to rebuild it, but you also don't want to let the mutas just take over that middle. This is a scary army. The Ultra is not as scary as a mass amount of Banelings. The Widow Mines might get some good shots to the left side, but only after most of the army is dead. Where is INnoVation's army? Actually, so much of it is to the north. All that can do is really clear up creep. It's not back here helping against the Ultras.
Yeah, and soO is obviously rebuilding so much, so that army on the top side is actually going to just meet an insane amount of units that soO is producing at this point. soO does not finish off the Orbitor. I kind of felt like he could have gotten that, but he's just going to bring his army back home. He's like, nope, I want to clean up the rest of what INnoVation has as well. Those Widow Mine shots were about as good as they were ever going to be, but it just doesn't make a difference, right? If soO still has this much, and INnoVation's army in the top side of the map, like, what did it really get done? A hatchery? Who cares? soO has like 7 of those.
Yeah.
And that was his hidden base as well. It's almost mined out, just.
Exactly, yeah. It would have been much better to have on the defensive. Then you suddenly take out at least the Ultras that are left alone after the Lings die, right? And you can say at least a little bit more of a trade. As it is, the Ultras even survived. INnoVation still has enough economy to not tap out, but I can almost guarantee that he knows that he's probably going to tap out in this game. He's going to try his best to get some harassment on that south side finally, like I was talking about, but with all the mineral patches taken out as they are, it doesn't actually take too long to respond.
Yep, this army is going to get taken out as well on the bottom side of the map, and it really does feel that is starting to run kind of out of steam. As it feels whatever he tries to do, soO is all over him. soO's got a massive bank, he's got the bigger army, he's got the better economy at this point, and he even had the better upgrades for a while, as INnoVation's +3 armor was so late. Inno's going to be forced to cancel that base as well. He's still going to try to rebuild, remax one more time. But with 50 minerals in the bank at 150 supply, I have a hard time believing that even INnoVation can pull this one off.
Yeah, Widow Mine didn't get the amazing shot that maybe it could have to at least hold on here. It wouldn't even really brought back the game for him. It is a losing battle, and he finally does tap out, bringing us to Game 7. The ultimate goal for any tournament organizer, for any caster, to get to Game 7. And we are here. soO vs INnoVation really bringing us the entertainment.
And I feel like this best of 7 so far had so many momentum shifts, right? Like at first it's like, damn, soO's good. And it's like, nah, Inno's just too good. And it's like, damn, that was really good by soO. And then you have that game on Eternal Empire. Or like Game 4, Inno obviously looked really good. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that was a weird map, but Inno still looked really good. And then Eternal Empire, it feels like, oh man, now Inno's just going to run away with the series because that wasn't even a game. And then suddenly, surprise, hidden base opening on Golden Wall. Why the hell not? And now we're going to Game 7. Like, this has been a final that's very hard to call. Like at one moment, I'm like, soO's actually going to win this. And then I was kind of back in INnoVation score, and I'm like, how did I even doubt him? And at this point, I just don't know anymore. I do think Zen is a pretty good Terran map. But hey, soO won last time, and that was also the deciding map, by the way. The previous time they played in the upper bracket. Game 5 back then, it was on Zen. It wasn't looking good for soO, but he made magic happen. And it definitely does feel like a deja vu, because here we go again. This time it's Game 7, though.
Yeah, just even more chances for someone to actually get a one-sided victory, and they still end up on the final game. That is pretty cool. The map being Zen as well. That's just I don't know. I was already entertained by map 6 being Golden Wall, but game 7 being Zen. Well, I don't think it's a bad map at all. I'm just thinking about the potential for the like extreme back and forth that can occur on these smaller maps. So.
You're hopeful.
I'm very hopeful, actually. I guess question is, are we still going to see any more weird things? You know, Stu really took a chance by going for a hidden base. That hidden base, you know, maybe INnoVation doesn't take it out, but he at least has a better idea of what to expect.
Okay. We're loading into the game, Jess. Before you continue, why am I feeling 2 Rex? Are you feeling 2 Rex?
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, right? Like, are we going to see anything different for the final game? Stu was on his last life, and he did it. He did something weird. His INnoVation's a player to do it on his last life.
I'm excited. Let's get it on. Game 7 is everything we hoped for. Yesterday, we had a couple of relatively one-sided series. Well, we're closing TSL 5 out. It might be the way we started it, with a lot of awesome games and a very entertaining series here between 2 of the all-time greats when it comes to StarCraft 2. Zen is ready. Let's go ahead and hop into the game. This is going to be it. Our final map of TSL 5 on the bottom side. We look in the main base of our Zerg player. It is soO.
I see an SCV with my little eye. Okay, in the top right as the red Terran, he is INnoVation, and he is absolutely going for the 2 racks. 2 SCVs sent out. The third one building the supply depot. Stu,
Love it.
do you expect this for Game 7?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the Overlord's obviously going in weird directions. He's always going to be looking forward. The barracks are going to be placed in the center. Now, that first Overlord is never going to scout it. The second Overlord may eventually scout it. I mean, it was written in the stars, right? I didn't have a feeling up to this point in any of the games that Inno was going to 2-Rex. But while I saw Zen, I was just thinking about how everything just happened, and soO just taking a hit of bait, I was like, the madman is gonna do it. And you just know that he's sitting there right now with a little smirk on his face. He is taking a gas behind this though, so this is not like the all-out, like, oh my god. But this is obviously still a massive commitment.
Yeah. Really cool positioning on the barracks as well. You absolutely see barracks proxied more to the left side where the Overlord is currently headed. Either in a greedy state, like right there, or a little bit farther back, but usually not in the middle. You know, it's the meta of where to put the 2 racks. Sometimes you get to start your own meta. So INnoVation starting the meta of putting them in the middle. It works out. soO is not going to see it, but he will maybe see it in like 2 seconds. That's when a bunker should already be building, though.
Oh man, this is bad for soO. This is actually really bad. Now he saw it with the Overlord. So obviously at this point, he knows that it's red alert. He has been mining gas. Now, in the past, soO had a couple of very interesting responses to this. A couple times I just saw him build nothing but lings and queens. He's going to try to squeeze a drone past all of this. That's kind of cool, but where is he really going for it with this drone?
I'm not really sure. I mean, INnoVation is concerned about it to send an SCV forward that could be back here repairing or building more bunkers. He might actually, like, he could have slapped down 2 bunkers, right? And, like, really cemented his hold here. But it seems like INnoVation also trying to just do the most with the least amount of stuff. So only 1 bunker.
So I've seen soO do this before, where he just builds so many Zerglings. And he just kind of goes for it, and he just fights the bunker. And the Marine count is not that high. I almost feel like maybe if soO would go for it at this point, I mean, he could actually get it. Okay, this is obviously a really big moment. There's no SCV. He just wants to get the hatch, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think INnoVation knows that. I mean, hey, if you're talking about it, right, INnoVation might know exactly how soO responds to this. He knows that he makes lings. He doesn't actually wait for Metalog boost. Of course, that'd be too late, but he makes a bunch of lings, and then he kills the bunker and he gets out. But if you kill the hatchery, you force them to make all of these lings, and you only committed 1 bunker. And how many Marines? 5 Marines, as some of them are running home right now, but you have a wall and you have a Hellion on the way back at home. Like, how much damage was that? Was like, that just feels like it's okay for INnoVation, but he did go for a starport, not immediately into a command center.
Yep, soO is going to double expand at home, by the way. It's important for soO that he doesn't lose his Hellion. It should never happen against slow Zerglings, but now speed is done. That is a nice little choke point for the Hellion. This does mean, though, that right now there is no firepower on the other side of the wall. INnoVation may have made a very big mistake here, because his Marines are not home either.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, seeing that they're slow lings, like, okay, speed was delayed, but just guess they're not going to go for speed at all. Yeah, I don't know about having that back there, but the Marines are actually kind of hiding out as well. They might be able to help, not so much. It's just all about the repair, waiting for more Hellions to pop, and just a Viking, actually. Not even a Liberator from the starport.
Maybe he wants to hide something. Maybe we'll see double factory follow-up. Because maybe INnoVation is going to reading this as like, he's going to have a very late lair. He's probably not expecting this. I mean, you've seen him do it before.
That's actually a really smart call because that is a build we've seen INnoVation like, but he hasn't actually used in this series yet. I mean, he also hasn't gone into mech, right? But you can actually go into bio from the 2 fact if you want. But we'll see. Like the Viking made first is very intentional to deny scouting. soO was definitely not been a guy to go for overlord speed and wouldn't be here after losing the hatchery. So you can almost guarantee yourself hidden technology. Question is second factory, fusion core. Even just a fast third is hidden. Like this Viking's actually missing all the overlords though.
Oh, is that like the very first Roach Warren we have seen all series?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is that defensive because he knows all the tricks that could be happening? Or
I do think it's important to mention as well that the Viking kind of dropped the ball and did not take care of the Overlord that was on the right side of the natural of INnoVation. So that Overlord is going to get in. It doesn't really see anything that we haven't seen before, but now there's an armory going down as well. And it honestly feels that soO, even though he saw the 2-Rex so late, he's making all the correct calls after the 2-Rex, right?
Yeah, I agree. He immediately went to a third, double expanded, obviously, and then Roach Warren is going to be the safest call because if it was a Blue Flame follow-up or if it was anything aggressive, I guess, that can come off of 2 bases, like anything but a battle cruiser, really. But yeah, Armory, definitely. He did scout it, didn't he?
No, he didn't see the armory. He turned around right
God.
before. Maybe he's convinced already because he saw so many Hellions or something. But that's why I said, oh no, he turned around like a split second before he would have seen that armory. As the Liberator starts being annoying, that's a lot of Hellbats. But the Roach is already out. And INnoVation's going to be like, what? Out of all the games, you've got Roaches now? The answer is yes, but the Queens are a bit out of position. So that does mean that Inno is going to get a couple of drones here.
Yeah, I do think that the walking away is the best scenario here. Just walk away, man, and now go into emergency mode because, okay, well, Lings are actually getting into the SCVs, returning the worker damage. That's something that INnoVation wanted to deal with because he also has to worry about the Roaches coming across the map. He doesn't have a strong answer about them.
Nope, there are a couple of Liberators, but the Hellbats are dropping out in the middle of the map. What are these Hellbats doing? I mean, it's actually somewhat of a decent moment to maybe fight and buy some time, but that felt really awkward. We are going to get one Ravager. If I was INnoVation, I'd probably keep like a Liberator at home. He's going to see this as well. He could siege on top of these Ravagers. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so dicey. It's 45 army supply against 43, but we do have Liberators.
And a Banshee is on the way. A Marauder was made. He's trying to build a bunker. 2 Marauders in a bunker would actually be pretty good with mass repair, of course, because the Ravagers are being denied on the making, or at least 2 of them more. Third one gets killed, but enough to actually shoot down that Liberator. This might actually be it. soO going for Roaches finally in Game 7. Might have been the absolutely right call. The bunker finishes, but there's not a whole lot of SCVs to actually repair. So the Corrosive Bile takes it down, and soO actually is not stopping with the aggression. He has a ton of Lings on the way, and I think that might just seal INnoVation's fate.
I mean, he was down 3-2, and I was going on about it before. You don't see it often when somebody falls in Game 5 that they turn everything around. Well, soO is kind of doing it with his unique response to the opening of INnoVation. I always wonder, why don't they build a second bunker against soO, right? Or why don't they have a couple of more Marines there? This is maybe a bit ambitious with all the Lings so clumped up, but this depot does go down, and that means that the floodgates are open, and soO is looking like he is going to be the champion of TSL 5, and who would have predicted that?
Not many people. He proves that taking on INnoVation in the winners bracket was not a mistake. It was not a fluke. soO, even though he might be cleaned up here, INnoVation doesn't want to tap out because it's the last game. There simply is not any recovery from this. Even if he had a third CC, there would still be far too many losses here, down to 12 workers with only 2 mules to work for. He's got to hope that his Banshee somehow deal at least 20 drones worth of damage, and then some, honestly, because we're talking about worker damage much later in the game, where soO can actually replace them.
We're gonna have another attack with Zerglings as well, and that Mew is a Mew that INnoVation so desperately needed. There's no wall off, more Zerglings in the main base, GG gets called, and soO is going to be your TSL 5 champion, and that is just awesome.
That is awesome indeed. And you know what's even more awesome? We actually get to have an interview with the winner, guys. So don't go anywhere while we get that set up. But yeah, this has been a fantastic tournament, fantastic finals. Game 7 in the finals after Game 5, of course, in the Trap vs. INnoVation series. I don't think we really could have asked for very much more. We had some cheeses, we had some weird games. We finally had the 2 racks, and apparently it doesn't always work. In the game that probably mattered the most, it didn't work.
Didn't even think about that meme, but yeah, right. This strategy is supposed to have such a high win percentage in tournaments. I am surprised though. Like I always see soO do this. He just like gets Zergling speed And this time he actually fought it before Zergling's speed because I guess he wanted to save his head. And then he just fights with queens and lings. He never even pulls drones against it. It honestly feels that, like, what if there's 3 bonkers there? Like, what do you do then? Do you still fight it with Zerglings? I don't know. But he's done it before. He did it again. Do you think there's anything INnoVation could have done different in that, like, final defense? Or did he just not have enough units?
In the final defense? Yeah, well, considering his choices, right? I think if he had done any preemptive scouting and actually just didn't do the Hellbat attack, right? First of all, then he has Hellions for the Lings and Hellbats to buy time on top of the Roaches, because that's when he builds a Marauder, maybe even swaps off his factory instantly, as opposed to committing to more Hellion production. I do think there's a world where he does what he does, but with better scouting, with better knowledge, he actually still manages to salvage a game out of it. But I was actually just, first of all, I was surprised when his 2 racks led to a starport instead of that command center. And apparently it was to get that Viking to deny the scouting, but it didn't even matter in that game. Like, and that's like a real heartbreaker too, because it's like, yeah, sure, didn't kill the Overlord, but it didn't matter, didn't kill the Overlord. Like, soO was already going for kind of like a hard counter.
Or soO just knew. Like, soO does have excellent game sense. I felt maybe in the end, like when that Liberator was trying to buy time, it did a really good job in forcing a couple of these Ravages to be cancelled and remade elsewhere. There was that landed Viking, and maybe if that Viking was repaired, then that Bonker actually finishes up. Because that Viking, I think there was some more potential there in keeping that alive. Obviously, does a lot of damage as well, but in the end, it didn't even really matter. soO just had too many units, and what a run it's been for him. I honestly feel that we have barely been talking about soO in this tournament. Of course, whenever we had to talk about soO while the games were happening, we were talking about him. But, he looked good in the opening day of TSL 5. You and Wardy casted him against Drogo. I remember I was watching that. I was actually driving somewhere, so I should say that I had you guys on the speakers in my car. And I was like, I think that Drogo can maybe get some magic done. But I was like, no, that didn't sound very well. Next round, INnoVation, I was like, Inno's got this. And we all thought that Inno would have it against soO. soO was like, nope, I've got this. soO against Special. soO looked really convincing in that series. He just looked good all around. soO against Elaser, I was like, that's gonna be a tricky one, and it was a tricky one, but he got the job done again. Then he just kind of rolled over Trap in the upper bracket final, and he gets the best of 7 victory over INnoVation in the end. No advantage either, right? This was not one of those like, maybe Inno would have won if they both started 0-0. No, it started 0-0. What an amazing run by soO, and that's gotta feel good. It's gotta feel really good for him.
Yeah, especially when so many people, like us included, kind of just like count you out, like, you do. Oh, hold on. I think we have a call to answer, guys. I think that's a ring-a-ding-ding. And I think I know who it might just be. Let's pick that up. Hello? Hello, moshi mosh. I think that's soO.
Is that professional?
That's
Oh,
soO.
hello.
Hello, soO.
Hello, mate.
Hey.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I mean, this was a pretty amazing best of 7. First of all, I want to ask you, is there something you want to say? You just won TSL 5. Like, how crazy is that?
먼저 그 우승한 소감부터 한번 얘기해 주세요.
솔직히 TSL 열린다고 했을 때 그냥 이거 내 대회 아닌데 그냥 남의 잔치겠구나 싶었는데 이렇게 우승하니까 좋네요.
When I first heard of TSL 5, I thought, this wouldn't be my tournament. I thought this would be someone else's celebration. So it's good to actually win it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just go ahead.
It feels good. I have some of those games are really, really good, but I'll start off with on Golden Wall. What was your goal with hiding that hatchery?
그 게임들이 다 전부 치열했는데 이번에 그 골든월 경기에 대해서 질문드리자면 그 3번째 부화장을 숨겼잖아요. 그 숨겨진 그 이유나 심리전이 뭐 어떤 게 있었나요?
골든월이 뒷마당도 있고 여기서 2M 뮤타를 많이 하기 때문에 그거를 좀 심리전으로 이용해서 저기다 지으면은 모를 거라고 생각해서 한번 해봤는데 처음 해봤는데 잘 통한 것 같아요.
이 자리에서 그냥 즉석 생각하는 건가요?
아니 생각만 해보고 있었는데 나중에 테란 만나면 한번 써봐야겠다 이렇게 생각했었는데 오늘 그걸 썼는데 잘 통했네요.
네. Yeah, so on Golden Wall, it has the backdoor expansion and all. So a lot of players, they go for 2-hatchery Mutalisk with the backdoor. So he thought, hey, if I go for the hidden base, he might be fooled. So he went for that mind game. And it was a strategy he had been thinking about a lot, but he never used in the tournament. So he decided to pull it out here.
Sick.
Cool. I would love to ask about the final game on Zen, because he scouted the 2-Rex or the proxy very late, of course, by the time that the bunker goes up. So I would like to ask what goes through his mind the moment he sees that he is actually getting 2-Rexed, and did he feel like he was in a lot of trouble, or did he just stay calm and took the game from there?
그 마지막 경기에서 이신영 선수의 좀 뻔한 투베럭 그 전진 병력을 당했잖아요. 그리고 정찰 좀 늦게 했고 그 정찰했을 때 늦게 발견했으니까 그때 심정이 어땠나요? 그때 좀 망했다 이 생각이 들었나요? 아니면
네.
그래도 막을 만하다 이 생각하고 있었나요?
또 당하는구나, 또 지는구나, 또 이 생각이 또 드는 거예요. 또 이신영한테 또 발목 잡히는구나 이 생각 들었는데, 신영이가 뭔가 좀 그러니까 좀 허술해 보인다고 해야 되나? 투베럭 하는 게? 그래가지고 희망을 봤는데 그 열심히 했던 게 잘 통한 것 같고, 마지막에 제가 바퀴를 한 판도 안 했잖아요. 그래서 바퀴 안 하는 거 노려서 뭐 할 것 같아가지고 바퀴 한 번 했는데 그게 잘 통했네요.
Yeah, so he thought, man, like I'm gonna lose to INnoVation again. It's the sort of the he can't keep getting away with this situation. But then he saw INnoVation's execution on the 2-Rex rush, and he thought, it's not quite clean. So he thought he had some hope there. And then he said, he hadn't used his roach strategies for this entire series. So he thought this is the right time to bring it out, and worked out.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yes.
I guess last question for me is that, like, you just defeated INnoVation twice when he's kind of like, everyone keeps saying that he's at the top of his game again. Do you think this means anything for, I guess, your future GSL performances and like online performances?
이번 대회에서 기세가 굉장히 좋은 이신영 선수를 2번이나 이겼는데 이런 걸 봤을 때 이제 다음 GSL이나 앞으로 있을 온라인 대회에서 좋은 성적을 기대할 수 있을까요?
드디어 이제 제가 이기고 싶었던 애를 이겼는데, 제가 이제 한 4달 정도 뒤에 이제 군대를 가거든요. 그래서 그냥 군대 가기 전에 꼭 이겨보고 싶었는데, 신영이를 그거 이긴 거에 대해 굉장히 만족하고 좀 후련하게 갈 수 있을 것 같아요.
네. Yeah, so he finally beat the player that he's always wanted to beat, and he's actually going to start his military service in about 4 months. So he's actually really happy that he got to, beat this nemesis of his before that.
That's a pretty good story to end on, right? Beat your nemesis.
Maybe one last question. Besides, obviously, the 2 very close series that soO had against INnoVation, I'd like to ask if he felt that any of the other series he was particularly worried, or he felt he was really pushed to the limit. Like, who of the other opponents made the best impression on him?
물론 이신영 선수가 2번의 접전을 벌였지만 이번 대회를 치르면서 경기를 하면서 이 상대는 참 잘하는구나, 아니면 그 고전을 했던 상대가 누가 있을까요?
이번 TSL에서요?
예.
TSL 하면서 왜 이렇게 게임이 잘 되지 이런 생각을 했어요. 왜냐면 제 실력은 솔직히 우승할 정도의 실력은 아니라고 생각을 하는데 쉽게 다 이겨가지고 어려웠던 상대는 딱히 없었고, 그나마 이제 오늘 했던 결승이 가장 힘들었어요.
Well, actually, like this entire TSL run, when he was playing the games, he was thinking, man, like, why are these games going so well? Because before the tournament, he had thought at his current skill level, he wasn't really at a championship level. So honestly, none of the games were that particularly hard, maybe. But this final, it was probably the toughest match.
All right. Well, I'm happy with that. And once again, congratulations to soO. I'm very happy for him. Maybe he's got any final words for all the fans who've been watching him over the last few weeks?
네, 마지막에 팬들에게 해줄 얘기가 있나요?
이제 마지막 다음에 이제 열리는 GSL이 마지막이 아마 될 것 같은데, 응원 끝까지 좀 열심히 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다. 네.
Well, you know, this upcoming GSL Codex tournament is probably going to be his last tournament, so just hopes everyone keeps cheering for him until the end.
And
We
I certainly
definitely will.
All right. Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you, Wax, for translating as well. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I hope you guys enjoyed the entire tournament, actually.
We stand as one.
Are you gonna give me orders?